Demons, be gone.
Be gone, demons.
Be gone.
Leave this studio.
Leave this planet.
Leave our universe.
Leave. This is legit sage from a Native American woman.
Wow.
So we're purifying this room.
Wonderful. Please, God, bless this room.
And Odin, too, just in case they were wrong.
That's what I was referring to.
They abandoned Odin. He was around first, you know? You got to think of all the gods that everybody believed in, and they're like, I'm not so sure about Thor. And then they let him go. What if Thor was legit, right?
And he's still out there, just like somebody who just fell out of fame as a god?
Yeah. He's like, don't you fuckers see the lightning?
Yeah. That's me throwing bolts.
He's like one of those guys when you go to Vegas and you see one of those billboards for a strange casino, and you're like, oh, that guy. Yeah. Tony Orlando and Dawn. I remember them.
Thor's at the Mirage. Thor.
Thor's doing a residency. You motherfuckers, check out the thunder. Like, that's actually caused by atmospheric conditions. No, you fucks.
Thor's on Cameo.
Make that. Can you imagine? Someone had a really good point about that. Some atheist was arguing against religions. It might have been Sam Harris. Probably was Sam Harris. It might have been Richard Dawkins. But he basically said there's 99 different gods that people who believe in the Christian God don't believe in. And then he goes, atheists just take it one step further.
They just get rid of the last.
We're just one god away. That's what he was saying.
That's cool.
Yeah. I get confused with being an atheist all the time. I do not believe I'm an atheist. I believe I am I'm open to everything person. I don't believe stories about people coming back from the dead, and because they're written by people, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's right. And also they're supposed to function on more than the surface level. They're supposed to be a kind of fractal that has inside of it a lot of like symbols related to just human existence.
Yes.
They're not meant to be so much like taken literally. That's when you embarrass yourself on either side.
Exactly. On either side. That's a really good point. And the translations apparently are so difficult to do.
Yeah.
Apparently, especially Old Testament, when they translated the Old Testament, they had to translate it. I mean, think of all the different languages it had to go through. It was Latin and Greek and German and English and all these different languages that are so different. Like, have you ever used the translate button? Like, I follow a lot of Russian fighters, and they, and their Instagram feed, they write in Russian, and I'm always like, oh, translate. It's a really cool feature. But you can tell it's not exactly what they meant because it's all fucked up because their language is different.
Right.
Like the way they structure sentences is different. So English doesn't just plug and play.
Right.
It's like sticking a USB 3 into a USB A. Like, hey, this doesn't really fit.
Right. Now add time. Ugh. Add thousands of years and scrolls and
kings who wanted things changed.
Yeah.
The King James version. What?
Right. It's the best. That's my favorite one to read on acid. That's the one. King James, Book of John, baby. Hit that on acid. It's so wonderful. It's so trippy because it's like, that's when I really like Christianity clicked for me, regardless if it's whether it's real or not. But that's when I was like, oh, okay, I get this. Because the Book of John, when you read it, you're like, well, someone wrote it. I don't know who wrote it. And whoever fucking wrote this, their mind was blown, man. Like, this wasn't written by someone who was just like a normal person. This is a person who was freaking out in the most intense way. And so to me, that's what I love about it is it's like something about how old it is and the distortions, the historical distortions, the warping of it produce this kind of awesome glitched out mosaic of, if nothing else, human consciousness 5,000 years ago, where our minds were, that's trippy by itself, regardless of whether or not a person who could like raise the dead and walk on water was walking about. Just, holy shit, here's how people thought back then.
Yes, yeah. I mean, all the stuff that you can't prove or you don't know, that's interesting. It's weird. It's weird where those stories came from and why they're so universal. Like everyone has like a creator. Everyone has like a main dude that did the thing. And, you know, then there's some other people that have like large groups of gods, like the Greeks had gods for everything. A lot of Native Americans had gods for everything.
Sure. Yeah. Animism. It's in, and like I've talked to people who who produce electronic music, and some of them say that the computers have a life in them, a sentience, a spirit inside their computer. So there's a collaboration happening that isn't one-sided when they're making stuff. It's like working with like the spirit within the machine, which is pretty trippy, man. Like,
why do they? But this is based on input or the way they react when they're putting in the input to the thing. They think the thing is responding to them.
Yeah, it's They think that it's alive. That like
it's standard keyboards, or is this just electronic stuff?
I know someone who makes visual art on their computer, their laptop.
Oh.
Do you have an Alexa? You probably don't. Do you have an Echo? Like, sometimes I'll realize the way I'm talking to that thing is like really impolite, you know, like next song. And
That's kind of fun.
Yeah,
it's fun to yell at robots.
Yeah, it is fun to yell at robots.
You know, it's really funny. I made fun of this, but there is a point to this. PETA had a statement that they put out a while back because these dudes from Boston Dynamics were kicking the fuck out of these robots. They're trying to figure out how to get these robots to fall over, and they're making these insanely durable robots. Like this, if you take scientists and engineers and you say, "Hey, I want you guys. Here's a shit ton of money. I want you guys to make the dopest robots you can make." Like they're gonna make robots you can kick, and it's not a living thing. So, but PETA released some statement saying they didn't think it's cool to kick robots.
What? That's not real.
Yes,
That's gotta
real.
be fake.
No, it's real. It's real. It's real.
What?
Yes. I think the statement, I'm paraphrasing, was something to the effect of, there's other things that are more important, but it's still not cool to kick robots.
Jesus Christ, that's a tattoo right there, man.
But it just shows you what'll happen when robots become alive, because those fucking traitors, those people that think that robots are alive and they're us, those emotionless things that have no place in our world with power. They're supposed to be things that we control. Yeah. As soon as you let them control themselves and you try to pretend they're a person, they're just going to wipe it out.
Yeah, man. Can you imagine? I'm not going to try to kick one of those fucking DARPA bots. Those things are terrifying.
They would have a record of it. They would always remember that this one kicks robots.
It's in the cloud.
Yeah, and then they'll show it to you one day when some super sophisticated genius god robot sits you down on a couch and shows you kicking these unbeknownst to you sentient robots. Yeah. They were just trying to fucking figure out, what am I? I'm like a baby. They were like little babies and you're kicking them. So the robots are very, very upset at you in the future.
They might just reanimate your ass and just show you over and over that clip of you kicking the fucking robot.
Yes.
Dude.
Did you see what Trump tweeted?
No.
He tweeted and deleted. It's fucking hilarious. He said, checks are coming to everyone in America except the people who used hashtag not my president. I wouldn't want to offend you with a check from someone that's not your president.
Oh my God.
Something to that effect. See if you can find that.
Holy
shit. And then it wrote hashtag MAGA afterwards. I mean, he just dunked on them. The president dunks on people.
Yeah. And I want to know who the tweet deleter is.
Well, someone in his department was probably like, Mr. Trump, that's not a good idea.
Did they have a siren that goes off? You got to delete that. Yeah, man.
I know the president can delete tweets.
How much is he going to send?
I think they wanted to give like $1,000 a month or something like that to Americans. Is that the idea, Jamie?
I've heard lots of things. I don't know, up to $2,000. I don't know if Bernie's saying they should give $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
it's got to be $2,000.
Everybody, but if you give everybody $2,000 a month, it's a good thing. But everyone's going to go, hey, you could have done this the whole time.
That's right.
Wait a minute. If you just raise taxes, can you just give people money? Can you just give people more money? And I'm not saying we should do this, but imagine if that was the solution to all this. If you just give people more money, everything just sort of levels out and relaxes. Crime drops, everything drops, drug abuse drops.
Well, I mean, they've got to know that when people don't have work, they don't have money. With no money, they can't support their family. That's when the riots start.
Yes.
That's
people
when
get
things
desperate.
catch on fire. They know that, so it's like a bribe to try to keep people from rioting until whatever the fuck this thing is passes.
You could look at it that way, or it's giving people a different environment to exist in, one that doesn't leave them hostile. So
Right.
instead of looking at it like a bribe, look at it like, you know what? I see what a lot of your problem is. You're not asking for affluence. You could barely get by. But if it was easy to get by, if you could just get by, and then you could pursue other things,
Yeah.
would that be better for society? And that was like what Andrew Yang was suggesting. If this whole automation revolution took place and everything started getting automated
Yeah.
and no one had a job anymore, there might be something to that. There might be something to that now even. You know, the question is like, what are you happy your taxes get used for? You know, it's almost like you should be able to vote on that. Like the one thing that we don't get real direction on, right? Like in terms of like what the country actually wants. But if we could all just individually vote on things like that, like where's my taxes go? I want
Right.
my taxes to go 100% to education.
Right.
I want to make that cut, and you know, you guys got to figure out what to do with the rest of the money.
But if you did
my
that-
money, I want it to go towards education.
But then nobody, or the people who would be paying for war and prisons and shit, would just be like BDSM people.
Well, how about the salaries? How about the salaries of politicians? How about the money that they
that would
make
go
doing
down.
tours and all that kind of shit?
Private jets.
All that shit. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. Also, like the loose connection between the state and corporations and
Yeah.
the way it's just all kind of merging together right now. And also, you know, it appears to be kind of the apocalypse at the moment. Like,
Well,
we're in
it's if it's not the apocalypse, I don't think it's the apocalypse. I think it's just a dangerous illness. But it's definitely a dress rehearsal. It's a dress rehearsal for fucking people are going to become preppers. It is going to be amazing for the toilet paper industry. They're gonna experience a banner year. If you got toilet paper stock, you're riding high right now.
Do you remember I don't know if you had this experience, but like I can remember sitting at my computer and pressing the button on Amazon where I wanted to buy something. And it's like, this isn't available right now. In that moment of like, what? It's my button that brings me things. And then like suddenly just realizing like, oh my fucking God, how completely weak have I become that I got accustomed to pressing this button and people would bring groceries to my house.
Yeah.
And now they don't. Now it's like stopped. Not only that, I'm so accustomed to like, well, you know, I'll just go to the grocery store and pick up some food. It's always been there. It's not there. Dude, I had an Instacart delivery today, you know, because we wanted to get stock up on food. I don't know, $200 worth of food. Guess what I got? Strawberries, hummus, and I think we got like, I don't know, some like eggs. That's it. Out of the whole order, everything else was sold out. All the beef gone, all the chicken gone. Nothing's there. It's like the shelves are empty. So it's like, okay, send everybody $2,000 a month. But what are they going to buy if there's like no food on the shelves? Like what?
Well,
what do
I
you,
think that was a temporary freak out where people stockpiled stuff. And I think as long as food keeps getting delivered on a normal schedule, I think that'll normal out.
I hope so, man.
Yeah, I do. I think that'll normal out. But it just shows you there's so many things in our society that are amazing, like grocery stores, like cell phones, like we can call each other. All this, but those things are so fragile.
Yeah.
They're so vulnerable. Like if an emergency happens and everyone wants to call at once, the cell phone system can't handle it.
Yeah.
Like it's not like you have a phone and you can call anytime you want, and I have a phone I can call anytime I want, and everyone in the world has a phone they can call anytime they want. No, if everybody does that, the system is not set up to handle that.
That's right.
If everybody does that, like that's why if there's an earthquake or a tsunami or anything, everyone's fucked. It's
Yeah.
so hard to make phone calls.
Yeah.
It's not going to get through.
Yeah. Well, dude, I just heard on NPR that so many people were requesting unemployment that it's crashed systems in several states. That's because this is the real problem. One of my friends was saying, he's like, you know, a lot of people are running out of money tomorrow. They're bartenders, anyone
Yeah.
in the service industry, all the people who work at the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
It's not like, I mean, how many of them had a lot of money like stored up?
None of them.
So what happens now when there's no food on the shelves?
Yeah, we got to help them. I'm in a text message thread with Whitney Cummings and Nick Swartzen and Crystal Leah, and we're talking about that very thing right now, like how to do it and how to set up a fund. It needs to be done for sure. People that can help should help. This is not a normal time. This is not a time where people are lazy. This is a time where the whole world got fucked real quick.
Yeah.
We weren't ready for it, and we're going to have to come together. But this is a good time for people to recognize the importance of community. It's a terrible time for humanity. It's a terrible time for us, and terrible time for the people that are sick. But it's a really good time for us to understand why community is important. We live in this illusionary world that's provided to us by the culture that we've created, where you can just buy things anytime you want. You don't need people. You come home, you watch Netflix, you don't engage with anyone, you get in your car, you barely say hi to anybody at work. We're detached from each other. And this is the only time ever in life we've been detached from each other, and we're being detached by these goddamn electronics.
Yeah.
They're sneaking up on us.
Yeah.
Electronics and cars, which is also, it's also a creation, a mechanical creation, and now more than ever, they're driving computers.
Yeah, man. It's true.
What I'm trying to say is Ted Kaczynski was right.
Oh my God, we all know that.
He was right.
Did you ever read his manifesto?
No, I'm scared it's catchy.
Yeah, man, it's so fun. I went through a period of like doing ketamine and like trying to watch the worst thing. Charles Manson, Kaczynski, and it is. It is a little bit like kind of interestingly not that off, but then the tone is so imperial or something when you're reading it. There's like this, it's a manifesto. That's how you have to write it, But the one thing, my wife is part of it's called a mommy group. So it's like a connection online of all these mommies and on like all over LA. And what they do is people will post shit they need. So like one of the moms just had a kid, they don't have any wet wipes. And so then all the other moms will be like, oh, we've got wet wipes. And then right now they're just leaving them on the door.
Oh, that's
so people come
nice.
and get them. So it's like, I think the community thing is exactly right.
Yeah.
But also people have to maybe transcend money for a second and figure out ways to set up in their community, like, what do you need? What do I have? And then start some form of like trade or just giving people, there was someone who set up a toilet paper exchange in LA where he was just like, if you have extra toilet paper, bring it. And then he had toilet paper and he was just giving it out to people who are, I think that's the sort of thing we're going to have to start doing if we can.
Yeah.
It's like right now there's old people who they can't do shit, man.
They can't do anything. They're terrified.
They can't even get online.
If you know them, you got to help them. And this is, this is a weird time for us, but it's a time for us to reset. It's not good. I'm not saying it's good, but I'm saying we can get a positive out of this.
Yeah.
The people that make it through, we can get a positive out of this. And the positive is community is important. It's really important. And it seemed like it wasn't important because it seemed like we had everything set up so you didn't have to engage with people. It's not the right way to do it. It's not good for anybody.
No.
That kind of life is not good. And the detachment that we have, that's why do you think people have road rage on the highway? When they're locked in their little box, separated from people in a way that they wouldn't have it in person.
Yeah.
If it was just, it's only a thin piece of metal and glass separating you from these people.
Yeah.
But there's the other added factor of the heightened senses because you're driving fast. You realize you might have to make quick movements. So dumb things people do are elevated.
Yeah, that's right.
They're even more dumb.
Yeah.
But it's also that you're detached. You're in these boxes.
Right. It's like a weird dream.
We've done weird shit to each other.
Yeah.
Because of that.
We're all gummed up in that way. It's like something, it's like a fungus that grew on the circuitry of society and started, or it's like, when they talk about the dolphins and the whales being fucked up by the high-tech sonar they're using and washing up on the beach because the sonar is messing up their ability to communicate with each other. It's like there's this kind of technological sonar that has completely made us disconnected from the earth, essentially. Like our earth connection has been replaced by a technological connection. Now, technology comes from the earth, but we're talking about a secondary thing compared to, your feet touching the ground, being around another human and like recognizing them as having exactly the same thing you have, which is they want to be happy. Feeling the connection between people when you're with someone. I don't know if you've ever done that, but just like the next time you're around anybody that you're like buying shit from or that normally just kind of go by, feel that connect. You can feel it. There's an energetic
Yeah.
connection that you can feel there that's easy to overlook.
Yeah, we've lost the biggest one, which is through light pollution. I think every night people were humbled and reminded of the majesty of the universe when they looked up and saw the infinite skies on a clear night.
Yeah.
The infinite stars, just the whole Milky Way, you could see the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, and there's parts of the country where there's plenty of darkness and you could literally see the whole Milky Way. And it makes you think like, oh, our ancestors saw this fucking freaky shit all the time. We decided to shut off the greatest art the world has ever known because we want to be able to see better at night.
Yeah.
The greatest art, and art that literally not just has inspired science and wonder and fueled it, right? But also has kind of always put people in place. Always just understand. This is not a backdrop. It's not a tapestry. The up there is madness. It's forever, and you're not protected. There's just a thin layer of gas between you and the universe, which is infinite. You're this tiny little speck of nothingness in this impossible to understand expanse of planets and stars that just goes on forever, literally forever. And we're one little tiny piece of it, and we're being held here with a spin and some air. Oh! And there's a giant fucking fireball in the sky that keeps us alive. And it's 1,000,000 times bigger than the Earth.
Yeah.
And it's right there. And this is the reality that we live in. It is almost too crazy to put in your consciousness on a daily basis, so we forget about it all the time. It's one of the most important things about our existence here, is that we're a part of the universe.
Yeah.
It's not just that we're in, fucking Sherman Oaks or we're hanging out in Montana. No, we're right there, connected in the universe. And it doesn't get brought up, and one of the reasons is because we don't see it. We don't fucking freak out. If you go to the country, go camping, you fucking freak out. You're like, wow. You see the stars. You're like, this is fucking nuts, man. You can see them all. It's a reset button. It changes how you feel about life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, also it seems like a lot of us have forgotten that we're going to die on top of all that. I mean, not only are you like looking up at this void filled with stars, but the thing you are is temporary. And that to me is, the other day I'm like just washing dishes during this fucking pandemic, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I feel so lucky to be washing dishes right now. I'm alive, I'm healthy. This is fucking, it was a different kind of washing dishes than a week ago when I was able to, or 2 weeks or before this shit started, when I could order anything I fucking wanted off the internet. It suddenly I'm in a different world. Like, this is a world where, we got to wash these dishes because, man, if bugs come, I don't know if I want to call an exterminator right now. I don't know how many people I want in my house right now. I don't know what this shit is. So it's like suddenly what you're experiencing is this kind of like, what does it say in the Bible that we both love so much? Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And I think you could easily translate that to understanding your place in the universe should produce a kind of positive fear and trembling. Not like you're anxious or terrified, but just a kind of like, whoa, this doesn't last. Nothing about this lasts. And right now, everyone around the planet is getting a firsthand glimpse of that very truth, right?
Yeah, all at once. One big dose.
One big dose of it all at once, man.
One big dose for people to recognize how much of what they concentrate on a daily basis, how much of what fills their consciousness is shit.
Yeah.
It's utter nonsense.
Yeah.
And we got tricked. We got tricked into thinking it would go on forever, and now we know it's not going to. And now we know, hey, look, this is a terrible thing, but relatively speaking, compared to supervolcano, asteroid impact, compared to something solar flare, something really crazy that can happen and blow out all the power, which is 100% a possibility. Solar flares are 100% a possibility. And for people to not recognize that and just go through their life, it's just because we look at life as if what we've experienced while we're alive is the norm. but it's not. It's not the norm. It's just hard for you to recognize that your life is so short. Your life is so short that when they're measuring all the different catastrophes that have happened over the earth, whether it's proven sites of asteroid impacts or proven sites of volcano eruptions or all these different things that have happened for sure and wiped out millions of people all over the world, they happen over a time span that's too big.
Yeah.
Our head doesn't get in there. Our head doesn't go, what is 13,000 years is just some scratches on some paper in my head, my stupid head.
Yeah.
I don't know what 13,000 years means. I can't do it. But 13,000 years ago, they think, and there's more and more evidence every day, that there was some big impact on Earth.
Yeah.
And who fucking knows how many of those humans have gone through? Who knows? For the what I think scientists believe, like, what is it? It's like 300,000 plus years we've been this, right? Is that the idea? Homo sapien?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that, right? Bro, that ain't shit.
Right.
That's so short. That's so short just in the time that the Earth has been here, in the 4 point whatever billion years the Earth has been here. And that's so short in terms of the almost 14 billion years the known universe has been here. All of it's madness. Every single step along the way is madness. But we get stuck in these little time periods where nothing changes. And so we think that this is life. So we've built all these houses that only can work on electricity. How many fucking people have a real fireplace in their house that live in cold places?
Yeah, man.
They're banning those now.
Right.
So if they're banning fireplaces because they don't want to start fires, that's great as long as you can ensure the gas and the power is going to stay on. And I don't think you could do that.
Yeah,
we just
man.
think you can because you've done it for 100 years.
That's right.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
100 years isn't shit. 100 years, the Industrial Revolution, the Roaring Twenties from then to today.
Yeah.
Let's go 150. Let's get crazy. That ain't shit.
Yeah.
That ain't shit. To say this is how things are every day is so dumb. It's especially to say it in terms of the Earth, natural disasters, space anomalies, not even anomalies. Things that happen, like solar flares. They happen all the time, man.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, and shit we don't even know. That's the other thing. We don't know all the data in the universe. We don't know that there isn't something called like a quadresian ripple that happens every, 16 million years. That
Call Sean Carroll right now.
It's a ripple.
I need information.
Do you know that poem Ozymandias?
Ozymandias?
Yeah. It's
No.
by Shelley, I think. It's like, I don't have it memorized, but basically it's like the poem is about someone who sees the broken legs of a statue in the desert. And written on a plaque is, "My name is Ozymandias, ruler of rulers, king of kings. Behold my works, ye mighty, and despair." All because it's just the broken legs. It's
Jesus
like all you
Christ.
motherfuckers who think you have power, who think you have all this control. It's like we don't I guarantee, of course, like in ancient Egypt, there was probably, I'm not talking about the pharaoh, but there's at least like 1,000 dudes who are like, I'm like the hot shit in Egypt, and they're going to remember me for a long time. It's like, we don't know who you are. It's all gone, eradicated, wiped out. And this, to me, is like one of the really side effects of this thing, this technology thing, is we've all become completely self-obsessed, self-absorbed, putting our images out there, making sure that our profiles are updated. You know what I mean? Like we have this insane idea of like we're so deeply rooted in our identity instead of in the connections between our identities, that we're all, the only way that we can finally see how connected we are is some motherfucker eats a bat. And you know what I mean? Fucking weird, dude.
You know what's really crazy, man? Think of this. If technology really did have an effect on the programming of human beings, and if human beings interacting with technology think we're innocently interacting with a non-sentient thing, but all the while this technology, and you could call, we get confused and we think that technology is like a digital clock or a television or a computer. It is, but it's also like a fish hook.
Right.
Like, so it's innovation. Someone had to figure that out. And imagine creating an ape that is aware of its environment. Like, this is like really the perfect storm. Aware of its environment, but obsessed with itself. Knows in the back of its head that it's temporary, that it's got a finite lifespan, but lives like it's going to live forever, and lives in the moment, and wants to acquire things. Like, it seems the number one goal for the uber wealthy or the uber successful, the Jeff Bezos types characters, right, who are on the top of the food chain financially, they want to acquire things. Yeah, they're always acquiring things, which means people have to make things, which means they're a big consumer as well as someone is making a shit ton of money. Right. And this also fuels innovation because you got to keep up with these people. Got to keep giving them bigger and better things every year. So all these resources go into innovation of technology. It's the thing that progresses quicker than anything. Right. Look at cell phones. Every year, I need a 150 megapixel camera, or you're a loser. Yeah. You're a loser. Yeah. You know, these fucking Samsung phones that have like 7-inch screens now, everyone's going crazy, right? Right. But what is the goal, though? The goal is to make better shit. And the goal along the way of this goal is it's working, but it'd be even better if we made it so they don't touch each other anymore. If we could come up with a disease where they can't shake hands, they don't come close. Right. And just keep them a little further apart from each other. It'll make them more interested in the things, more interested in the technology, more separate from each other, and encourage technology that connects them with each other. So through technology, they'll find this human longing for contact that they've been missing in their life. They're going to get an emulated version of it. But that emulated version of it is just going to keep getting better, and it's going to keep getting better, and it's going to get to a point where it's better than real life, way better than real life, because you're like Jumanji. You get to be the Rock. You get to be like a superhero. You could live a magical life with no boundaries of physics. And that they're going to do that. People are going to do that. They're going to give in. If I was a life form that was trying to haunt another life form and trick it into giving birth to me, I would create a person. I'd create people. We're like some fucking ant. We're like some ant that's manufacturing our successors. Yeah. That's what we are. Yeah. And we don't even know what we're doing. Just showing up every day. Look at my fucking watches. I got all these diamonds. Ching, ching, ching. Yeah. Bling, bling, bitches. My house is bigger than the Rock's. The Rock's house is this big. My house is this big. Yeah. That's what people are doing. That's what we're doing. We're just buying more shit. And one good thing of something like this, anytime a tragedy happens, people bond together afterwards. It's a terrible thing that it happened, but for the victims and the family members of the victims, we all know this, but it can be a good reset for us. Sure. Economically, people are going to have to get through it. That's going to be the most difficult part. Yeah, it is. But I think there's going to be an opportunity for us to just assume a nicer stance towards our neighbors and towards our friends and towards our community. And instead of embracing this idea, you better get guns because they're coming, maybe we can all come together instead of that.
I think people need to find, if that's going to happen, then we've got to find a better metric for whether things are right or wrong than the news. Yes. We need something to retune ourselves. Right now we're tuning the guitar of our identities to the most terrifying shit, which is the news or what people are saying. And so and I think many people have become so accustomed to getting their idea of what's happening in reality from the TV instead of from how they feel inside, what's going on with their friends and their family. That puts people at an incredible disadvantage because their pond is being rippled by shit. I was thinking it's what are those little, not prairie dogs, they stand and look around at the hawks. You know what I'm talking about? What are those things called? They're social little marmots or something like that. Oh, okay. There was a show like Lemur Palace. I don't remember what they're called. Something, but they're
really cute. I see them at the zoo.
They're fucking adorable.
They're one of the most adorable animals ever.
They stand and look. Yeah. Somehow they ignore all the humans around them and just look in the sky for a hawk. It's kind of sad, but
that's their life, though.
But imagine if that one looking for the hawk had the internet and could see hawks thousands of miles away. How anxious all of them would be, because he would always be like, get underground, get underground, get underground. Right. So, I think this is what has happened, is that we're all constantly being told. I mean, I remember when I was growing up in the old days, when the news had an alert that was serious. Some serious shit went down.
Yep.
You would be, what the fuck? Fox News or any of the news stations, they have an alert like every 4 minutes now.
Yeah.
Dum, 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 alert. Dum, 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 alert. And it's all telling us just what you're saying. Get underground. Go inside. Go inside. Danger out here. Danger out here. And so we're all like, even before this shit, we were huddled up a little bit. Now we can rationalize the huddling, you know, and that's what we're doing. We're just huddling inside right now. That's an incredibly vulnerable place to be. I mean, I'm not going to get conspiratorial here, but, you
If
know.
I was the artificial intelligence and I was about to hit the switch and become sentient, I would want to remove the threat of human beings as much as possible before I hit the switch.
Put them in.
And this is the best way. You make them sick.
I'm about to give birth.
Make them get sick, confuse them, keep them poor, and then boom, it comes out of nowhere.
And then what?
Then they just start eating us because we're fuel.
They're not going to eat us. I
Do
think
you know who came up with do you know that was a DARPA project?
What?
EATR robots. They were robots that survived on biological, air quotes, biological material. So like maybe they could eat plants or babies, whatever's around.
I need a friend at DARPA. I mean,
They made robots that eat tissue. This is, do robots eat people?
Please
Eater
tell me
does,
that's not-
and it's a corpse eating robot. Yes, bro.
what?
Yes.
Why
It
would you
literally-
paint it playground colors?
It literally will use.
Who at DARPA is like paint it like a playground set?
So true. Look at it. The colors. It's
It
ridiculous.
looks like a kid's toy.
It should look like a vulture. It should be like red and black, like a vulture.
Yeah, it should definitely be black, red, lightning bolts on the side.
A nice
not-
patina, like a ward out patina, like it's just going through the battlefield, eating bodies.
Can you imagine getting eaten by a thing that looks like a Tonka
Can you
truck?
imagine if you're not quite dead and it starts chewing you feet first? I mean, how does it determine whether or not you're dead? What if you can make it? What if you're just out cold? What if you got knocked out and it's like a movie? You wake up in the battlefield. I mean, there's a bunch of movies where that happens, right?
Sure.
You guys aren't really dead. They're just badly injured. These motherfuckers.
Yeah.
There's a video right down below of us talking about it. Joe's freaked out by eater robots. This happened more than once. I'm fucking terrified of those things. Just the idea that someone made something that can eat people. Well, listen, folks, the technology that existed in like early cell phones, right? Like if someone made an early Motorola phone with a camera, all that stuff got into everything now. There's so many things that can take pictures now, and so many phones that can take pictures. If they develop one robot and one like proof of concept where something could be fueled on dead bodies, you don't think other people are going to make those too? You don't think they're going to get better? They're going to get better. And then when we do go to war with the robots and there's big, giant, bulletproof metal ones just eating us and using us as fuel, we're going to be like, what have we done? What have we done? We've created a thing that eats people. And even if it's just the baby right now, that thing could evolve to become something that literally is the thing of nightmares in a Stephen King movie.
Sure.
Where it's just running around looking for people, eating people. It's a Black Mirror episode gone wrong.
Man,
Or right.
to me, I just like to think about the meeting where the guy was like, last night I woke up in the middle of the night with this idea. I got it, y'all. What if we make a robot that devours corpses? And somebody was like, you know what? I kind of like that, Jake. Let's put 50 million into that project. See what we could do.
Jesus.
Yeah, just imagine like this is the other thing, man. Is like we somehow imagine that thing that made Genghis Khan is like now out of people. Like there isn't somebody on the planet right now that has the same ambition as a warlord. You know, we somehow forget that. See, I just think people don't understand that. Like, there's this idea that the world leaders are just, you know, humanists, and that the interest of humanity is the first thing they're thinking about when they wake up every day. We don't know that some of them aren't interested in the same thing every conquering warlord has been interested, which is like, maybe we could take over the planet. I wonder if there's a way. And, you know, imagine if you ended up president of the United States or like president of Russia, president of any powerful wherever. You know, maybe when you were high one night, I don't know if they get high, but I would, you know, or maybe when you're like just like thinking, wouldn't it flicker through your mind kind of like, I wonder if there would be a way to take over the world. I wonder if there's a way that I could become the king of Earth. Because, when you look up there in the sky, I'm sure there's many Earths out there that have one king, one ruler, someone who conquered the entire planet, someone who figured out a way to do it, to why couldn't you? That's the other thing. I mean, what's stopping that from happening one day? There being one primary authority, some imperial majesty.
We are all one, Duncan.
I know.
Yeah, if we were all one, but we just have to get rid of some of our laws. Other people are not going to accept our laws,
Right.
okay? We just got to tighten that up a little bit, and we can have one ruler of the whole planet.
Yeah.
And we're going to fix everything by working together. We're going to evenly distribute resources. It's going to be better this way.
I don't
But
know about the
you're gonna have
distribution of
to-
resources.
You're going to have to give up all of your privacy. That's all. But through
right.
that,
Yeah.
everyone's going to be happier.
Yeah.
Are you in, or are you an outsider?
Are you going to act like you're not in? And if you act like you're not in, then we'll find another way to hypnotize you, because we'll just pretend to be people who aren't in, and then
We'll trick you. We'll infiltrate.
Yeah.
Yes.
How
a
easy
good
is
cult.
It? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you do, man. That's the problem, is no matter what revolutionary idea gets out there that anybody has, the contagion of the revolutionary idea is easily warped and twisted by people who have other ideas that run counter to that. It's so easy to confuse people who believe that Twitter, Instagram, CNN, Fox News, Drudge Report, Wall Street Journal, New York Times is an accurate metric of what's happening on the planet.
Yeah.
That's not very many information streams, man.
Right.
And how hard would it be to infiltrate all the information streams in some small way and gradually start warping them so that people become more open to the idea of being constantly surveilled, constantly monitored, and not speaking up about it? Because if you speak up about it, then you're a conspiracy theorist.
I got
What's wrong with
another
you?
way of looking at it that I've been thinking. What if it's just this is how life goes? What if instead of this being like some grand conspiracy by the robots or by the elites, what if this is just how systems go? When one thing gets too big, is in too much power, it's no longer a struggle to survive. It's reached some stagnant point biologically in some sort of weird way. And also maybe even without, for lack of a better word, spiritually stagnant,
Yeah.
right? I mean, some people are breaking through and realizing who they are and their connection to other people. But globally, God, there's a lot of people that are sleepwalking out there, sleepwalking, hypnotized by
Yeah.
technology and society. And this is their big wake up call right now. What if all this, even materialism, right? Even our obsession with technology, maybe if you look at all the systems that exist in the universe, and particularly all the biological systems that exist on Earth, some of them are so spectacular. You're like, what? What happened here?
Yeah.
How did they do this?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen leafcutter ants when they take their buildings and they pour cement in them and they realize there's these fermentation chambers and they ferment the leaves in there. There's air holes out to the earth and there's all these fucking tunnels and there's this crazy elaborate city structure that's created by these ants. Well, there's all these systems that take place all over the earth. For if there's too much plants, then the insects involved. If there's too many insects, the plants evolve. All these things happen to sort of keep some sort of a balance.
Yeah.
Ideas that infect people, the dumb ones that are so intoxicated. Think about some of the most intoxicating shit. I mean intoxicating, meaning that you're not even really getting pleasure out of it, but you can't look away. It's like some of the dumbest reality television, right?
Right.
And the Fear Factor. You're sitting there with your mouth open like, huh? And you get sucked in to this thing that the earth is created to make you. It's not people. What if the grand conspiracy is it's not robots, it's not people, it's life is trying to get rid of you. Yeah. Life is making it easier to survive, which makes you soft as fuck, which makes you compliant to anything that keeps you in that sort of soft, comfortable state. I don't want to ruffle any feathers. If they need to look through my emails, you let them.
Yeah.
And all the while, it's just the world. It's the universe plotting against us because there's too many of us and we fucked up and we have too much power and we're obviously doing shit to the earth that we shouldn't be doing.
Right.
Like, look what we're doing to the ocean. We're sucking every fish out. We're dumping in all our fucking straws.
Yeah.
Look at what we're doing to fracking where people have to move because they can't use their water. And they're like, well, this is an acceptable outcome. This is basically, we don't need to rely on Saudi Arabia anymore. But you poison these people's air. They have to move out of their fucking house. Their water's on fire.
Right.
Literally, their water's on fire. And maybe life is like, okay, what do we got here? Let's get a virus. Let's get them addicted to technology. Let's get a virus. Let's get them obsessed with themselves. Let's make the predominant thing that people spend their time on not reading books, not fucking walking alone with their thoughts, but staring at these pictures of other people's photos.
Yeah.
Selfies and butt pictures and look at how this guy does chest. Do you ever do chest like that?
Right.
You get sucked into looking at these fucking videos.
Yeah.
And then when it's decided you're weak, it starts sending in some more problems. Boom, here's a little bit of this. Boom, here's a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Boom, here's a new disease.
Yeah.
Boom, here's a tsunami. Boom, here's a nuclear reactor you can't shut down.
Yeah.
And then you try to figure out whether or not we're going to be able to use our amazing intellect to bypass our own biological switches that have us connected to this bullshit life. Right. We have a lot of weird, dumb biological switches that were put in place back when we had to survive against incoming hordes of soldiers. And we're in the information age now. What we need to do is be sustainable in case of emergency, which we're clearly not. And we need to realize that this is temporary. And when a bad thing happens, it makes you realize that. It makes you realize, like, hey, I thought everything was going to be fine forever. It's not.
Yeah.
This is real. Just like a movie or a book. We're just not prepared for it because we haven't experienced it. We're like, well, this is a once-in-a-lifetime event. No, it's a once-in-our-lifetime event. Our lifetime is too small for us to really get a grip. It's a blink.
It's a blink.
It's a blink.
And this is just, like you said, dress rehearsal. If anything, it's a dress rehearsal for death. I mean, you're going to, the thing is like that blink. If you're an atheist, which, I get that. And I think there must be some like deep.
Do you know any atheists that have done like a real blowout psychedelic session?
No.
I know a couple. And those are the most puzzling to me because people have done like real blowout mushroom sessions or blowout DMT sessions. I always think that they would leave the door open to the impossible because it is impossible and you experienced it. It's not like, even if you're imagining it, I couldn't imagine that. So how am I imagining that? How am I imagining something in such incredible, vivid color and detail and knowledge and love and all these different things you experience in that state? That state is otherworldly. The fact that that is accessible at all, I don't care if it's through a molecule or through a yoga session. I don't care how it's accessible.
Right.
But the fact that that's accessible at all leaves open to me the I don't know, because I didn't know that was a thing. So once I've experienced that, I'm like, oh, well, all this flat plane of existence that we take for granted, that we think this is everything around us, this is the whole environment we have to worry out for, this might be just one fucking stage on the radio dial of experiences and of dimensions that are interacting with us. We just don't have the senses to tune into them. And when you can, for me at least, it leaves open the door for who the fuck knows? Who knows, man? Just the fact that that's a thing.
So this is a trip. This is very trippy. So I got this book called The Tibetan Yoga of Dream and Sleep.
Whoa, I feel like I should like this again.
It's fucking cool. But basically, it's like it's a form of Tibetan Buddhism that invites you to explore the difference between when you think you're awake and when you're dreaming. And so basically the idea is there isn't much of a difference. There's like right now, you're dreaming. This thing you call your human incarnation is a dream. And like when people are dying, they get all delirious and shit. They slide through time. Like I don't know if you've ever been around a dying person, but they like suddenly they're back in Vietnam. They're in the 50s. They're in the 30s. Whatever their lifetime. Which means that when you're dying, you're going to like spin through time too, meaning that this could be you dying right now, spinning backwards
Jesus,
through time.
Duncan.
But like in a dream. So that when this is the main thing about it is that when we die, according to this, we sort of spend like 39 days, I think it is, in a place called the Bardo, which is essentially like what it's like to have no body, but still have this like, this basically like your karma, your identity sort of propelling you through. And that's how you like get your next incarnation. So essentially like, that's what we're dealing with here is so bizarre and surreal that it easily could just be a dream state that one of these vast AIs that already exist is having. We're just processors. We're just being run. It's like running a simulation of a pandemic, or maybe this is a way that like an AI gets polished. Like maybe we're an AI that's being like polished and taught through this process of having a limited incarnation. You got to have that so that there's a reason for us to actually invest ourselves in stuff. Like if we were gods, if we lived for 1 million years, eventually we wouldn't have such a passionate relationship, I think, with the world, anyone who's going to. So you need that to train the thing up so it takes it seriously. You have to put the setting on mortal. Then maybe you just run a series of tests on the thing. You start what is this? What have we made? What does it do in a pandemic? And by it, I mean the sum total of all humans, which is right now disconnected. It's like a malfunctioning brain. You know what I mean? We're not connecting. But if we were being like sort of, I don't know how you put it, groomed, evolved intentionally, then every single moment in an individual's life and in the life of history could be looked at as a training or an upgrade. This could be an operating system upgrade. This could be what an operating system upgrade looks like in the biocomputer that we exist in. It looks like a fucking pandemic. And that's what's happening right now is we're being like upgraded for some reason, even though it's terrifying and obviously horrific, We're being upgraded. And anyway, the whole point is, man, this thing that we're in right now, whether or not there's a God, I think an atheist gets to lean into the idea that when they close their eyes and breathe their last breath, it stops. And I just think that's a big gamble, man. And I don't mean because you go to hell. I mean, how nice would that be?
Yeah.
If it just stopped. When more than likely it's, at least in this Tibetan yoga of dreaming and sleep, more than likely what happens is way before you actually die, when you get really sick, you already start waking up into your next life. You just like go through a weird dreamlike state called the Bardo where you freak the fuck out. And then you're suddenly alive in another being, completely oblivious to whatever your past incarnations were. And that's what we're in right now. So, I don't know. This is a great time for people to start, looking at that and preparing for that. We didn't prepare for the fucking pandemic. We didn't prepare. Some of y'all did, I'm sure, but I didn't.
There's a few preppers out there listening and going, yeah, I was ready, man.
I know you guys did it. Congrats.
I was ready, man.
You were right. Congratulations. I've got fucking hummus and strawberries and some but I think that like also preparing for like the authentic apocalypse, which is when you kick the fucking bucket.
Yeah.
Because the idea is, and this, feel free to light the goddamn sage again. But the idea
Demons be gone.
Thank you. The idea is that you can actually like navigate through that Bardo state. You can have a little bit of lucidity instead of sort of dying and like freaking out because it's a hallucinatory state. You could actually have a kind of like, I don't know, focus through it and control your next incarnation.
Yeah, we just have to figure it out. That's the thing. And when you're young, particularly if you're young and you don't have a lot of guidance, which was me when I was younger, it takes a while to figure it out because you're just running on your own, right? You're not getting like a lot of direction to how to live your life. And I moved around a lot too, which really didn't help. But as you get older, you start getting a better sense of what makes sense and what doesn't make sense and what's important and what's not important and what fucks up your life and what enhances your life. but you don't live long enough to really get it down.
Right.
See, if these people like David Sinclair or Aubrey de Grey, all these anti-aging geniuses that are out there that are working on all these solutions to extend human life, if they ever really nail it, you know, if David Sinclair comes up with something and you can live 150, 250 years, by the time you're 150 years old, you're going to have so much less bullshit in your life.
Right.
You're going to realize, like, when you're 30, you'll date crazy people. You'll have moron friends that you have to bail out of jail. You'll have these problems. But when you get older, you start going, look, I see what's good for me and I see what's not good for me.
Right.
You know, and I see there's some people that are not willing to change and they're not trying to do better.
Right.
They're just consistently making the same mistakes over and over again and dragging everyone down around them. You just got to move on from people like that in your life. When you're 150, man, you're not going to be tolerating anything. You're just gonna only have cool people that you hang out with, and we'll attract each other, and then we'll be able to work together on things,
Right.
knowing that each other are sane and rational and are looking at these things honestly. They're not talking from a position of trying to convince you of their virtue or trying to talk you in a position of doing something that'll benefit them financially.
Yeah.
They're doing it just because they're just being in the moment and honest and being a human being.
Yeah, man. I mean, you basically just described like the secret societies. I mean, you know what I
We
mean?
need to come up with our own, which we call it.
The Illuminati.
No, that's too much.
Well, you know that
If we came up with our own right now, what would we call it?
whatever it is, don't do initials, man. I hate that shit.
That's not good. They can use those against you.
Yeah, I don't
Right.
know. What do we call it, Jamie? Children of Jamie. You know. But the thing is, like, these immortal beings that you're talking about, they do already exist, but they exist as like communities that have lineages attached to them. So it's like, because our physical bodies die, we don't get to do the thing you're talking about. Or when you're older, you do that naturally. And plus,
Yeah.
when you have kids, it's like you just don't have time for bullshit anymore. There's no time to fuck around with somebody who's like constantly fucking up their life you used to get drinks with or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you have a child and you have to, but regardless, there already is set in place on the planet these like lineages. There's essentially chains of transmission in martial arts, right? Like,
Yeah.
when you look at a martial art, you're seeing a living being, you know, that has its roots. I don't know how far it goes back. When you look at yoga, that's a living thing that's transferred from person to person, right?
Yeah.
So I think these things immortality already does exist. It just doesn't exist as a human. And also, sometimes when I hear about these technologists trying to live forever, I get a little scared thinking that's kind of like, you know, if you could theoretically do it, you might be locking yourself in a dream that you don't want to stay in.
It gets worse.
Yeah.
And you can't die.
You can't die.
You engineer some polymer skin that's made out of that spider silk blend that they were trying to come up with that's stronger than steel.
Yeah.
Remember they were doing that? There was an article about them trying to create some sort of bulletproof skin by engineering it with spider silk.
Yeah, I remember that.
What if that
happened to
becomes? What if that's real? What if they figure out a way to make people completely invulnerable and we live forever and then we hate it and we didn't realize that if we just shut the lights out, we'd go to the next stage.
That's it.
And the
man.
next stage is amazing. Maybe that's like the big trick. The big trick is like how do you use this life and how does it take you into the next stage? Imagine if that's really what's happening. That's why every single look, I'm not saying that this means anything, but every single religion has some place you go when it's over.
Yeah.
Don't they? I mean, almost all of them?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an overlying theme. Now, you could say, well, that's just engineered to provide comfort to people because, you know, they want to feel like this life means something. But the reality is the lights just shut off. And to that, I say maybe. I say maybe. Maybe. But have you ever been whacked out of your mind on psychedelics? Because if you are, you would go, who the fuck knows? Because that's a who the fuck knows moment. So maybe death is a who the fuck knows moment.
Right.
Maybe that's why every single religion has these stories. Not every single one, but like, look, I mean, there's a lot of religions that people have clearly just made up, right? And we know the people that made them. They count too. They don't even have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
So let's not get holier than thou with the concept of religions.
Right.
So there's a lot of really dumb religions that probably don't have an afterlife. But it's just some shit that people made up, all of it. But how many people have made up this idea that there's a place you go that's better than this. See?
Right.
I mean, is that just to make you, incentivize you to be good and to be a good person? Or is it like an inherent understanding of how the universe works? It might be both things. It might also be manipulative because you can get people to comply with social norms and society's rules. If you tell them that if they don't, that God is watching them and he will smite them down and burn them forever. That is a way. That is part of a way, but it's not going to stop people from doing most shit. It's just not. It never has. I mean, some of the most horrific things ever done by human beings were done in the name of Christianity, right? And many other religions. But there is something to the possibility that it's both things, that it's an understanding that when you do good in this life, you will go forth into the next stage in a better place.
Right.
You'll feel better. You'll be less burdened by the past. You'll be less hampered by the failures of your ability to adjust and your ability to live a harmonious life with people here on Earth. That might be something that's real.
And also, the other idea is it's not like this place that they're talking about in religions is existing after you die. The idea is like you're there right now.
You just can't feel it.
You're wearing a blindfold that looks like your body and in your life. You're wearing a blindfold that looks like your existence. You're blind. And that's why there's always these stories of like Jesus healing a blind man, or like Paul on the road to Damascus being like blinded. There's all these stories of being like already existing in what Buddhism, some forms of Buddhism call fundamental goodness. That's already where we're at. That's the main channel, but we've sort of grown like little bits of grass into the time-space continuum, and right now we're like waving in the wind of our karma and not realizing there's beneath us or through us or moving through us is a much grander, more beautiful, incredible thing. So like, I think when people say, yeah, they invented it so people would be afraid, it sort of imagines that these people are having one-way conversations with it. You know, that when they pick up the phone, it's just themselves they're talking to. It's not imagining that when people connect to this divine source, it immediately says, oh, hi, yeah, this is the part of your program where you were supposed to start remembering what's really going on here and reconnecting with me. Don't worry. Don't feel bad. It's okay. Everyone goes through that. In fact, you requested a disconnect for the last 15 years when you were getting hammered and imagining you were Charles Bukowski or whatever. Like, if this was all part of the plan, that was actually teaching you what happens when you don't take care of your body. Now, we're like connecting, sending a download to you, letting you know, hi, it's us, we're here. We're not mad at you, how could we be? We're infinite. We've been here since before the stars. You wanted this to happen. My apologies for cutting off your ball, killing your mom and your dad.
Jesus.
You know what I mean? But whatever, this is all part of a bigger thing. And I think that's, to me, what God is. It's this constantly rejuvenating, synchronistic perfection that becomes increasingly perfect, and it exists simultaneous to this seemingly imperfect universe. And it's always there for you to connect to at any moment. And when people smoke DMT, certainly that's one of the avenues. And that's a beautiful thing. So I think the reason for it is not to scare people. It's more so that people become like fountains for that. And in some small way become little droplets or like divine bits of perspiration bubbling up into this place, so that folks who are really freaking out right now or worried or scared or disconnected could have at least the chance to reconnect. Because listen, man, if I was God wanting to get blasted, if I was some divine being wanting to get high, and Alan Watts has a beautiful lecture on this, I really do think at some point I would want to cut off all connection to the realization of my divinity and experience infinite lifetimes on a planet, and a tumultuous planet, and experience every incarnation and all of it to get an understanding of what it is like to be extremely limited. And what would this do? It would just add to my data banks. It would just help me increasingly become more and more beautiful and perfect, which seems to be what we're in right now. It's like we have a limited data set based on our neurology. We can't see certain colors, we can't hear certain sounds, we don't know what happened 20,000 years ago, we don't know what happens 5 seconds from now. And so this is a perfect place to be in becoming, to know what it is to become and to be limited. And this is, who knows, man, it's just something sniffing data. It's something just like, it's like snorting our lives, like the universe is snorting our lives on time. And on the mirror of time.
Well, it's the big thing, right, that keeps us from seeing that. The one thing that all psychedelics have in common is the dissolving of the ego. They all dissolve the ego. What's that word? Dissolution? Yeah. Dissolution of the ego. That what's happening with all of them is it removes all this nonsense narrative in your head. Everyone's ego has this nonsense view of the world that's based on them being the most important thing.
Oh, yeah.
And that, all the shit that they're thinking about right now is of the utmost importance, needs to be done right now. That's why people run red lights. Like, you can't even wait. You fuck. It's one thing if it's a medical emergency, kids being born, someone's got a broken leg, and you got to get to the hospital right away. I get it. I 100% get it. But there's some people that just want to make that left turn. They don't give a fuck if the light changed. They want to cut in front of you, make that turn, even block traffic, because they think more about themselves than they do about other people. And that's a side effect of this life that's been set up. But it's almost like maybe that's how it works. Maybe the life creates challenges when there are no challenges. And the challenges it just tries to diminish you, tries to see if you're paying attention, tries to weaken you and make you stupid and turns you into a fucking zombie. Yeah. If you walked into any restaurant during lunchtime and you see people on their phones, it's like, this is bonkers. If this was anything else, that where half the room was using an electronic and staring into it for long moments at a time, not interacting with the person across from them, like that becomes almost the norm. Yeah. That like at least 50% of the people, and everyone's interrupting everybody, like, they're all just barely paying attention to each other.
Yeah. Well, they haven't developed the muscle. I mean, it's a muscle. It's people just assume that the ability to have a conversation is a natural part of being an adult, but it's like I think that's atrophying in a lot of people to the point now where I just try to be, I just have lowered my expectations to the point of like, I don't know how many people can pay attention that much. And I know I'm certainly distracted, but doesn't it feel fucking weird? Even if you're just watching TV with somebody and they pull their phone out and start looking at it.
Oh, it's so weird.
It's like the energy immediately downshifts the moment that it's...
Like if you're watching a movie with someone and they're over there on their phone, like, come on.
Yeah.
Watch the goddamn movie with me.
Yeah. Even though we're not talking doesn't mean we're not connecting.
It's weird. Even fights. If you watch fights with your friends, they're on their phone all the time. It's like, are you not even watching these fights?
You can feel it.
Yeah.
That's why, at the Denver Comedy Works, they've got the Dave Chappelle.
Yonder bags?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like, I was listening. Do you ever listen to an audience that doesn't have access to their phones before a show?
They're so mad.
They want, motherfucker, where's my phone? They
talk to each other.
Yeah, it's like the sound is better. It's a better sound out there. It's a different murmur than a phone murmur from a crowd. So I don't know, man. I think
life presents all sorts of adversity, and some adversity doesn't feel like adversity. It's sneaky, and that's what cell phones are. That's what technology is, and that's certainly what social media is. Right. You only realize what social media truly can do when it comes at you. You get canceled, or there's a bunch of people who are tweeting mean stuff to you. Then you realize, like, oh, these are horrible feelings.
Right.
This feeling of being attacked by this thing that's been grooming me.
Ooh.
It's like, what is that? Like, well, if the Earth was trying to get rid of us, if the Earth had decided that there's an infection that doesn't think it's an infection, it thinks it's so important that it should be allowed to pollute everything around it, should be allowed to scab up the Earth with giant concrete bandages. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're putting these things everywhere that cover up all the ground, displace all the life, and then we shut off the lights so we can't recognize that we're in space. I mean, the whole recipe is perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect for charming us to sleep. Every aspect of it, the ego part, the fact that it exists, the fact that we have this biological imperative to stay alive and breed, and then keep our DNA alive, and then there's all these things that are set into you to make sure that happens. All the while, where you recognize you definitely are a finite life form,
Right.
but yet you do something you hate every day.
Yeah. You just keep doing it.
Yeah, you do something you don't enjoy.
And when you get into reincarnation, which I love, that thing you're doing that you don't enjoy, you've been doing that for infinite lifetimes.
Oh my God.
That's called your kleshas. It's your sort of, it's like underneath your identity. It's basically your code. It's your tendencies, I guess is the way you put it. So like, if you have the tendency to lose your temper, then that's something that you've been dealing with for infinite lifetimes, and it never ever goes away until you start waking up. Because the idea is to just go from being this set of conditioned responses, reactions to your environment, to being something that's like lucid living. I mean, if people are into lucid dreaming, try lucid living, which is the practice, I would say, of like first what are your habituations? What, like the other day I was sitting on the couch, I took my sock off and I spun it like a lasso and threw it across the room. And my wife looks at me, she's like, what was that? I'm like, oh my God, holy shit. That's how I've been taking my socks off for years. And I didn't even know it. I pull them off, lasso them, and sling. And like that, just that little thing, I didn't even know I was doing something I've probably been doing that since I was a kid. Like I probably saw some cool kid lasso his socks and throw it, and I'm like, I'm gonna start fucking lassoing my socks. But like, how many other things are you doing that are just like that are just pure habituation, pure reactivity? And this is where you run into some scary shit, man, which is what Jaron Lanier, God, I wish you could get him on. You know who that guy is?
What, say his name again?
Jaron Lanier.
I feel like I've heard that name.
He is.
What does he do?
He's an author. He like developed all this VR technology. He was in Silicon Valley, and it's when it was just starting working on VR before the technology was even there to have VR goggles. He was like building, I think he like helped his group help build, I think it might be the Oculus Rift. I'm sorry, fans of his out there who are upset that I don't know the.
But some VR system.
Yeah, he's written a lot of great books. One of them, 12 reasons to get off, or 10 reasons to get off your social media now.
Really?
But yeah.
He wrote a book called that?
Yep.
How do you say his name again?
Jaron Lanier.
Jaron
Lanier. Freaking brilliant human, man. But
what's the name of the book again?
It's called 10 or 12, I can't remember, 12 reasons to get off your social media now or delete your account, something like that. There's a book of his I like better than that called The Dawn of the New Everything. And that's just him sort of like talking about what it was like working in Silicon Valley back then, and his sort of opinions on this stuff.
Is he a white guy with dreadlocks?
Yeah, look. Yeah. What,
suspect.
Well, no. I think people do judge his meat body, but
his meat body?
Well, his physical appearance or whatever.
Oh, is he a large fellow?
He's fucking brilliant,
man.
I
believe it. Listen, man, there's a lot of brilliant people with wacky hair.
Yeah.
I'm just joking.
It's okay to have. I'm
just
defending him because I'm nerdy.
What is he doing?
I love him.
What is he doing? Is those bagpipes? What's happening with this guy?
He's playing pipes. Who cares? He's a genius. Let him. I don't care what I don't care.
But there's just quite a few photos of him with pipes.
God damn it! I didn't see the pipe photos. Who cares? I didn't see the pipe photos.
When we say pipes, we should say like the kind you blow on, like flutes and pipes and.
Okay, I didn't see that.
There's a lot of them, bro. He looks real spiritual.
Stop, Jamie.
Don't
look at it. Forget
please
it.
put that picture back up because there's very few things in life that I love more than white guys with dreadlocks with their eyes closed playing the flute. There's very few things in life that make me feel like, man,
dude, if I had
that's
that
my
picture
guy.
Of me online, I would want people to turn off their social media too.
Yeah, that's my guy. Here's a new flute with
damn
him,
it.
eyes closed.
Who cares? He plays a flute.
He plays a flute. I bet he's
brilliant.
amazing at it.
I'm
Dude,
sure he's great.
Nothing wrong with what he's doing. I think it's amazing. I wish I could play a flute.
What the fuck is
He's playing another flute. Look at that flute. That's a dope looking flute, though. What is that flute? That flute looks dope.
God damn.
Listen, flutes sound cool, and I'm not being disingenuous. I'm not being sarcastic. Flutes sound cool. I wish I could. What is that thing, though? That needs to go away. What is
it's
that
like
silly?
It's like a zither.
He's in The Hobbit. He's in the movie The Hobbit. He's in the movie The Hobbit. He's in the fucking pub, and he's playing that thing in the back because they haven't figured out real music yet. sorry. I'm only joking.
I know you
I
are.
appreciate your contributions. I'm just joking. I'm sure you're brilliant. Duncan's one of my favorite people. If he says
He's
you're
brilliant.
I'm just joking.
Look, if you want to listen, if you play the flute, all
Listen,
you
there's
want.
a lot of like the kind of people that are like super intelligent and whacked out on technology. I think something like the flute would be an amazing way to decompress.
Right.
An organic. I mean, you're literally using your body to make a sound with air and tubes.
He plays.
It's amazing.
He said he plays like 100 instruments or something.
Sure.
He's just some kind of genius. But here's the scary thing he said, which is, if like B.F. Skinner's right, and pretty much if you can control a thing's environment, you can control it. This is the reason to be terrified of AI, because the more advanced an AI gets, like our assumption is the thing's going to eat us or kill us or whatever. It might just gradually hypnotize us and hypnotize us by creating more and more enticing things that grab our attention, hacks our neurology, and begins to like just do things that are completely impossible to not look at. And that, when you're saying an AI, advised the pandemic, what if that, how do you look away from a pandemic? Mm-hmm. All of our nervous systems right now are completely fixated on every tremor, every ripple, every little data point that flies across our screens. We are so absorbed in it right now. We are locked in like cats chasing laser pointers. And that is what he said we should be most afraid of, is that these things eventually could get to the point of completely grabbing us. And what you were saying earlier is kind of, maybe that's what already happened.
Maybe that is a process.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a process that's not even put in place by anything other than life itself. The life itself has these systems set up so no one thing ever totally dominates. And when it does, they find ways into it. And then it's this constant state of chaos that produces better and better life forms.
Right.
That's what it is. I mean, if you want to admit or you want to state that we are better than our ancient ancestors, the pre-Homo sapien hominids, I think we're better. I think we're better. They might have been stronger than us, but we've created more. Overall, as a species, I think it's better to be a person than it is to be a pre-person, right? I think as it goes on and on, we're going to think the same way. I think the next stage of existence is going to be so happy it's not a person running around letting their dick think for them and fucking getting drunk all the time and crashing their motorcycle and all the dumb shit that people do, all of the dumb shit, from alcohol and drug abuse to fucked up relationships to everything we do, to lying and stealing and being selfish, all that shit. We'd be so happy if that all went away. Oh my God. The pre-humans used to eat each other's babies. They were always fucking stealing and robbing. They couldn't talk. They couldn't express love. Who the fuck would want to be that?
Right.
And then the humans were so full of shit. They were all addicted to their phones. They didn't even see it coming. The phone snuck in their life. They welcomed them with new versions every year, paying for their own demise. Happily. And they were all angry and bitter and mean and jealous and fucking thoughtless and polluting. And then the next stage came along and they eliminated all that. And we all live in harmony.
Now we're all gravel.
No, now we're
Isn't it great to be a gravel
we're
pebble?
all space.
Yeah, or
we're all part of the next.
Yeah, and we already are. I mean, I think probably we already are that. But I mean, to me, I think that whatever's happening, you just have to make it a good thing. Like whether or not it is a good thing or not, that's, if there is something great about humans, is that we're capable of alchemizing phenomena in a way that it doesn't completely drive us nuts or paralyze us. That's anything that's happening to you can be converted into something either that's going to make you scared, self-destructive, rationalize your anger, rationalize your shitty decisions, or it can be used as a thing that completely, quote, converts you. completely shifts your method or way of living. And that's what's beautiful about a human, is that at any given moment you can do that. Like at any given moment you can shed your operating system. Theoretically you could drop all of the hangups, all the weird shit. Are you jerking off 3 times a day? You could maybe take it down to 2 times a day. Are you drinking every single night? You can stop that. And to me, that's like, yeah, the future beings, whatever they are, I hope one of the qualities or one of the things they look back at is like, holy shit, those poor things had no idea how powerful they were. They were sleepwalking when they could have at any moment connected to the great truth, the divine, the glory of all things, and could have theoretically, any one of them, just one of them, could have converted the entire planet into an up-leveled, up-resonanced, up-consciousness utopia. But they all were sleepwalking. And then finally, somebody woke up for real. And I don't know, maybe it's I don't know what that looks like.
Well, maybe what looks like is what this is happening. What is happening right now with this virus, where everybody's being forced indoors and forced to stop work. It's a terrible thing for people financially, but it is in a sense a reset button. It's a real reset button.
Yeah.
To know that this shitty job that you hate going to could go away at any moment, because all jobs could go away at any moment, is a real wake-up call, because even the good jobs are going away, right? If you're in San Francisco, you have the best job in the world. Guess what? You can't even go there.
Right.
You might have the best job. You're so fucking pumped to go to work every day. You can't go. You can't go.
Yeah.
So that can be taken away from you too. So if you're living a bullshit life, like recognize that all of this for everybody could go away.
Right.
If Yellowstone blows, half the people die.
Right.
Like easily,
Yeah.
maybe more.
Right.
And that motherfucker could easily go.
Sure.
We need these little catastrophes sometimes just to let us understand that the window of time that we've been existing in, that's been relatively free of disaster, is unique. And that's not normal. Normal is madness. Normal is we're in the middle of a fucking shooting gallery spinning 1,000 miles an hour around a fireball. That's normal. And every now and then shit flies into our atmosphere and wreaks havoc.
This is why I love Hollow Earth theory, man. You ever get into that shit? Do you ever get into that?
Is that for people to get kicked out of the Flat Earth Society?
Yeah, Flat Earth people look down on Hollow Earthers. But Hollow Earth is, like, to me, my favorite of them all, because if the idea is like, yeah, humans have been on the planet for a long time, and if we want to go into like the cool idea of the Atlanteans and advanced civilizations, at some point, if you can't create a way to protect from the meteor impacts and you're looking to create a sustaining civilization, you're going to want to go in there, man. And so to me, it's such a fucking cool idea that in the core of the earth is another sun that has an advanced civilization that hasn't been disrupted by the shit that happens on the surface of the planet. It turns the earth into a spaceship. Inside the spaceship are these advanced beings. And outside the spaceship, it's like a celestial fungus that's like growing out. It's like, another way to put it would be, outside the spaceship is Mad Max. Like covering outside the spaceship is just a bunch of like, us that are inside the thing who have basically been completely disrupted over and over and over again. So they have no idea what history is. They have no idea where the planet came from. They don't know anything. And now we've sort of grown out of control all around the ship. And so this kind of shit that's happening is like turning on the windshield wipers. It's like, hey, man, you got humans on you. You know that, right, man? You're like crawling with them. Oh, fuck. Wipe them out. Get rid of them. Let's just scrub the fucking surface. Do some earthquakes. Yellowstone is just a windshield wiper for the people who live inside the planet.
Well, you know what humans are, man? Really? What? A vector for ideas.
Yeah.
It's ideas that change everything. The humans just do the work of the ideas.
Right.
What we are, we're the first thing that can manipulate our environment that has ideas. We're the first thing with ideas. All these other animals, they had instincts.
Right.
They had ideas in terms of like trying to figure out the best patterns to acquire food, how to sneak up on birds.
Yeah.
But if you think cats have ideas, well, guess what? They all have the same fucking idea. Cats aren't inventing shit.
Right.
You know, they're not inventing things. There's a specific kind of idea that's unique to a human being. Regardless of the sentience of other animals, ours is unique in that it allows us to make stuff. Not just little things. We can make gigantic machines that travel into space, and all the wild creations of human beings all came out of ideas. We think it's all humans, but true, we're the ones that put forth. But if you're a thing that wants to get born and you need a host, you get that curious ape that's just been trying to figure out better ways to stab its neighbor with a spear. Get that thing and slowly infect it with ideas.
Right.
Ideas of new stuff to make.
Yeah.
And then it goes out and does the work for you, and then you take over the earth. The ideas have taken over the earth. The people are just the toys of the ideas. Now, if instead of ideas you said demons, I mean, that's literally what people used to think was happening to folks when they did terrible things. They had bad ideas, they acted on those bad ideas, and ancient religions thought of those ideas like they were demons, like these people were possessed. That was a common thought, that someone's possessed by a demon.
Still is.
We're all possessed by ideas, and some possessed by them more than others. Like Elon Musk is particularly haunted. He's possessed by ideas.
Swarms of ideas.
And what does he do? Well, look at what he's done. He's one guy that's probably had more of an impact on our perception of what the future holds in terms of technology than any other one individual human being that is widely known of like he is, a famous human like he is. I mean, he's doing Tesla, which is the most advanced electric cars in the world. They're insane.
Yeah.
Then he's doing this fucking loop thing, right? The boring project where he's boring.
Yeah.
Well, he's doing the Hyperloop. He's doing the boring project. He's making tunnels under LA and Vegas, and you're going to be able to shoot through those tunnels going 120 miles an hour. Then he's making rockets that shoot up into space. Oh, and solar power too. Yeah. Like what? How is one guy's doing all this? What's going on there? Well, that guy's infected by ideas. That guy probably has a huge receptor, and ideas have clung on to him. Just like some girls have big tits, some people have crazy parts of their brain that soaks in ideas, and it's no rhyme or reason to why. But what they are is an antenna for ideas. Those ideas come up, and you're like, wow, I'm glad I thought of that. And then you go to work on fracking. You go to work on all kinds of different crazy things that change the world forever. Whoever invented Fukushima, right? He's like, I'll figure out how to shut it off when that time comes.
We'll figure it out.
No one ever does. But that person talked people, or that group of people whose ideas all coincided, talked people into building a gigantic nuclear furnace that you can never shut off.
Yeah. How crazy is that? That's crazy.
It's crazy.
We scan the skies for meteor impacts, but we
Yeah.
have no way to scan human consciousness for some incoming idea.
Ideas. Yeah.
Because some ideas coming in are going to be great, but there's going to be a few that are really bad ideas. Like,
Yeah.
you know, Hitler.
Yep.
He had an idea.
Yeah.
And it was a bad fucking idea.
And he implemented
Where
that
was that
terrible idea.
That idea was just floating in
Yep.
the astral plane, gradually just shooting towards Hitler's fucking brain.
That idea is fueled by an ecosystem, and just like you're fueled by nutrients, right? Human beings are fueled by plants and fish and animals and vitamins and all these different things. Well, these ideas are fueled. They're fueled by insecurity and ego and lust and greed and jealousy and anger and virtue and love and prosperity and comfort and community, and all those different components of human consciousness all interact with this idea. So the idea becomes like it just hitches a ride. It hitches a ride with all these ideas that already exist in your brain.
Yeah.
And then with these pre-existing structures like businesses and warehouses and all these different things that we use to make stuff and then ship it out, then the idea becomes a thing. And then the idea winds up in the belly of a seagull because it looks like a fish. Whoops. Sorry. You're
Yeah,
dead.
right.
You're dead,
Right.
seagull. You couldn't figure out that that's a bottle cap.
Wow.
Not a fish. And that this is how things change. They don't just change because of people. We're blaming ourselves. And it is definitely us that's doing the work. But it's all coming out of ideas. If we thought of ideas as a life force, instead of thinking ideas as like something you own,
Yeah.
something you hold, but even though you do deserve credit for your ideas because your discipline to sit down and try to cultivate these ideas accelerates the production of those ideas
Yeah.
and exercises the muscle through which those ideas come through focus and energy. So you deserve credit for it. This is not a socialist way of looking at it, but everybody that has an idea that's really good will tell you it's like it came out of nowhere. Like every great bit that you've ever had, it's
Sure.
like pop, a light bulb goes off and you have this thought and it comes out of nowhere.
Right.
That's like most things that you write that are really cool. They kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You just sit there and then all of a sudden you think of things and you write them out. They're an idea that you're wrestling. You just catch them.
That's
you just
it.
catch them.
Well, this is why I love collaborating with people, because the more people you collaborate with, you, instead of just using your own brain as the net to
Yeah.
catch these ideas, when you have a group of people sharing whatever the intention may be, whether it's to make like flesh-eating robots or to cure cancer or whatever, then that becomes this like amazing a solar panel for like big ideas, you know? So, I mean, this is to me the weirdest thing about when you're working with a group of people or collaborating with people. If, you know, someone's off, you will sink to that level. But if you're, you know, when you're around funny people, you get funnier.
Yes.
You know, when you're around like people who can draw, you can draw a little better. It's like something about being in a group.
Sure.
Share, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that works that way with martial arts.
Really?
It works. Yep, it works that way with pool. When you watch people play pool that are really good, you can play better. If you're a player, like you see someone play really good, you realize like things that they do, and you see them and you emulate them, and then you can do it. We feed off of each other in that respect. I think that's a big argument for why the Comedy Store is so good. Because there's so many great
Yeah.
comics there, and we all feed off each other.
That's
If you're-
right.
If you're going on after Jesselnick, you're like, "Fuck, that guy's so good. That's so funny," and it elevates everybody.
That's
You
right.
know, if you're there with Dalia or Joey or you or Sebastian, like, fuck, man, how am I so lucky? Ali Wong and Whitney
Yeah.
and Eliza, like, you're working with some of the best people in the country, the people that are killing it all over the country.
One of
and
my-
Bert and Tom, and I mean, I can keep going on and on and on.
And then they're helping you punch up jokes.
Yes,
I got off
you know?
stage. This is one of my favorite memories there. And Jeff Garland and Whitney Cummings are helping me punch up a joke. And I'm just thinking like, what the
Yeah.
fuck? This is like Hogwarts. How am I how are these two people who are brilliantly funny and, you know, helping
know.
refine some like ridiculous, just dumb joke?
Do you ever still have imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Everybody does, I think.
Oh, I'm so glad you admit it, man.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah, I don't get it as much anymore, but it still do. I particularly used to get it with famous people.
Yeah.
You know, I'd get it when I was around famous people. I always felt weird, like, oh my god, I'm not supposed to be around these people.
Yeah.
They're too famous. They're real famous. I'm just fake famous.
Right.
You know, it's a weird insecurity that pops up. But I think for you, it's like, you know, when we first became friends, you were the guy who answered the phone at the store.
Yeah.
And that's really, there's those crazy conversations that you and I had when I would call in to give my avails. We would talk the phone for a fucking hour sometimes.
I know.
About wacky shit. But those sort of, those kind of interactions that you have with people, they shape what you are.
That's right.
You know, and the more people that you have in your life that are like that are interesting, that you feed off, and you can have good ideas. We could engineer a society that's way better, that doesn't have all the pitfalls, but we all have to pull our own weight. It's like there's a problem in this society where there's siphoning off of money, right? There's massive moving and exchanging of money in some weird way with like banks and mutual funds and all that stuff. It's like, what are you guys doing? Like, what is how are you so rich? Like,
Yeah.
what, you just moving money around? Like, that's sort of that system, since they run the financial system, that sort of idea of how everything gets distributed is kind of hijacked, because they kind of run the system. We all are in the system, and we all clearly benefit from the system.
Yeah.
It's the best system we know of. But still, there's some people that are doing some wacky things with the system, and they have giant yachts and like
Yeah.
they own 50 buildings. But if that wasn't the case, if it was a more fair distribution, meaning not meaning that you shouldn't be rewarded for your work, but that you can't just kind of hijack money the way bankers can.
Right.
You can't just kind of there's so much weirdness about using money to make money, and that's all you do. You're moving money around.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? You don't even have a real job.
Right.
I mean, you have a real job, but like, you're not making a thing, right? You're not writing a thing. You're not teaching a thing.
Yeah.
You're just moving monies around. You're deciding this company sucks. I'm gonna fucking bet on this
Yeah.
one. Like, whoa! And those are the people oftentimes that have the most exorbitant amounts of money. It's not saying that they shouldn't have a lot of money. They've figured something out. I'm saying that the system, as it exists, that it would allow someone to make that much fucking money from things is a little crazy.
Crazy.
It's a little crazy. It's not saying you shouldn't be able to get ahead. I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to kick ass. I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to acquire an extraordinary amount of wealth. I'm just saying I don't know if that makes sense to keep that sort of banking system, to keep it in place the way it is, to keep the stock market in place. What is it? It's based on confidence? Like, what are they doing? They're moving numbers around.
Yeah.
They're buying and selling, and things are getting, it's not worth as much anymore because this happened. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Sell. Well, a lot of people are shorting it. What are you going to do? I'm going to buy these fucking idiots. They're wrong. Apple's coming back.
Yeah.
And you're just moving money around. Like, what a wacky way to run an economy.
Yeah, man.
Bunch of fucking pill heads.
Yeah.
It's like, I used to know these fucking kids from high school. That one guy that I delivered newspapers with that went on to become a stockbroker. And that guy was always doing coke.
Really?
He was a madman. He was a madman.
Well, that would be, I mean, it would probably be fun to be like blasted on blow, like buying
Yeah.
stocks. But I just love the pictures on the stock exchange whenever it's crashing. Who are those fucking dudes? Like, it always cuts to like the guy whose tie's kind of pulled down and he's
Yes.
like, ah! Like,
Dude.
who are they? What is that?
I don't know, but until my friend, who was a wild man, became a stockbroker, I didn't think of stockbrokers like that. I thought stockbrokers were like super nerd genius guys that are figuring things out and counting and selling, and they're paying attention to all the markets and moving. I didn't know they were animals. Like, stock market guys are fucking savages.
Right.
And then the Wolf of Wall Street came along and people were like, what? Well, yeah, that's like my friend. That was my friend.
Yeah.
These are the type of people that are like, they have a big impact on the stock market.
Yeah.
People like that crazy asshole that went to jail. What the fuck's his name? Bernie Madoff.
Yeah.
People like that guy.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck, man? You just lying to people?
Yeah.
You weren't even investing anything?
No.
Oh my God! Like, those type of crazy assholes. There's so many of those in finance. It's amazing. I mean, there's great people in finance. Don't get me wrong. There's people that follow the rules. There's people that are wonderful human beings that also exist in that chaotic world. But it also attracts a lot of fucking sociopaths.
Yeah, well, isn't that the idea? Is that like there's the sociopath personality type is going to do better in certain industries.
Yeah, because you got to be cutthroat.
Yeah, you've got to be. Yeah, you just have to look at other people as being things you manipulate.
Yeah.
Dude, man, I feel like a dick. Can I show you this thing from my show?
Fuck yeah.
Okay, cool.
Why would you feel like a dick?
Because
that was part of the thing.
I know, man, but I plug, that kind of like, here's a clip in my show.
Here's a clip from my show.
But I'm proud of this fucking thing,
Should we
man.
spark up one more time before we see it?
Yeah.
I feel like we should.
Yeah.
You should have a lighter on your side, don't you? No, here.
I have a lighter. Thanks,
There you
Joe.
go. There you go.
I'm not going to touch that.
I'm
Yeah.
scared of a lighter.
Right now, I just know all the people are like, he's handled his mask wrong. He's already. I know it doesn't work. I've got a beard. It doesn't work anyway. Oh, man.
Yeah. There's a lot of people out there that will critique your technique in lighting joints.
Really?
Oh, they critique everything.
I think I have one of the best joint lighting techniques in the.
I think
Los
the problem
Angeles.
is listening to them. The problem is not them saying it. The problem is if you like tune into all the stuff that Chappelle's got it right. He doesn't do anything. He's got no social media at all. Man's a genius.
You don't want to get contaminated.
He's just got it locked into what he's doing, just constantly doing shows. He was doing shows pretty late up until the cancellation. I did. I forget the last day I did a show.
Man,
I think it was. I don't remember. But by Friday, everything was canceled. By Friday, we were like, we can't do this.
yeah, I remember talking to you about that, man. That was fucking weird.
It was
Sucks
weird.
The comedy store shut down, man. That's like.
Yeah, but it had to. It
Oh,
had
yeah.
to. And for everybody that's skeptical, it's really about old folks and folks that are immune compromised. I mean, if you look at Idris Elba on his Twitter page, That guy, first of all, that guy's a stud. I mean, that guy I had a lot of respect for that guy because not only is he a badass actor, but he also had a real Muay Thai fight. He had a real amateur Muay Thai fight. He was training Muay Thai and he got into it as a fucking huge movie star. And it's a real fight. If you watch it, they're really fighting.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, it's fucking...
What movie is this?
Not a movie. Well, I don't know what he trained. He trained it probably for... He was in James Bond, right? Wasn't he? He's done a shit ton of movies. He's definitely done movies where he had to fuck people up. So he probably trained martial arts for that, or maybe he just enjoyed doing it. But he really got into Muay Thai, and he actually had a fight. And he looked good. He looked good. He looked like a really good amateur, you know? And he fought hard. It was a real battle between him and this other guy. But he has it, and he's been doing these videos, updating and talking to people on his Twitter. And he seems fine. He seems fine, but he's really healthy. He's a robust, healthy, well-kept man. He takes care of himself.
Yeah.
Same as a lot of these NBA players that supposedly have it. A lot of them are asymptomatic. We're not worried about them. We're worried about old people. We're worried about people that are overweight, people that smoke cigarettes. But this is a wake-up call to a way worse disease. Like if this was the avian flu, if this was something that killed 60% of the people. Like, there's an article in the Atlantic about this. I think this is where I found out that the avian flu killed it was like 60%. The one that they killed all the chickens in the early 2000s. It was 60% fatality rate. So if you got it, it was more likely to kill you than not kill you.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and they got rid of that one pretty quick. But that kind of one is what we got to be really worried about.
Right.
This one we have to be worried about for our older folks and our folks that aren't doing well. But it's a good wake-up call. It's good. Look, no one responded perfectly. No one, in terms of no cities, no countries, no one did. But everybody got caught off guard.
Yeah.
We have to realize everybody got caught off guard. We didn't know. The only way they really know that something like this is going to happen is that it happens, and then there has to be a response. So now we're going to get better at figuring out what to do. So my hope is that we get through this, and then it makes us a little nicer to each other. And then we also realize, okay, we have to have a plan in place in case a really bad one happens. And we have to figure out what steps can be done to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Right. Yeah, man. I mean, that is definitely what... I mean, if we needed something like this, I wish it wasn't something that is going to kill a lot of people's grandparents. And I wish it was something a little less. But damn, you're totally right, man, because it's been a long time since we've had to, as a planet, deal with a problem at this level. And it's teaching us that there is a global civilization. It's teaching us that we are interconnected. And it's definitely inviting us to reprioritize our lives, man, because holy shit.
And there's consequences to living in a way that you don't feel are healthy or ethical, right? Like one of the reasons why they have those ag-gag laws where you're not allowed to film factory farms is because people would find it horrific.
Right.
And that would be bad for business. Well, that's not how we're supposed to look at it. See, that's a symptom of terrible thinking.
Right.
It's supposed to be the opposite way. We're supposed to make it so that it's not horrific to look at.
Right.
We're supposed to make it so that it's not this terrible thing. Now, that's the difference between doing things that feel natural and doing things that are horrific. And the horrific ones are the ones where all the diseases are coming from. If you think about these farming operations, let's just think about these wet markets. When you got all these animals in the open air piled on top of each other, dead animals laying on a plate, dead animals laying on a table, some laid stretched out on the floor, and you have them all over the place, you're going to have problems. There's going to be air and heat and bacteria is going to mix with each other, and then it creates things. That's what happened with the avian flu, that happened in animal agriculture, swine flu, same thing. These fucking flus, these horrible bugs, a lot of them come from animals.
So you don't think it was a bioweapon?
No, I don't think so. I think the real fear, if you talk to all the experts, the real fear is an actual known thing jumping from animal to human.
We talked to one.
That's what this is. Yeah, when we were at the CDC down in Galveston.
I'll never forget it.
I'll never forget it either.
Scariest fucking interview ever of all, not just that show, just of all time. Sitting with that, I wish I could remember his name, the guy who ran the head of the place.
Didn't we have some crazy flight too? We flew in and we didn't have any sleep.
Dude,
Wasn't it something nutty?
We missed a flight because we got stoned and we talked at the airport. And we talked for like a fucking hour and a half. And then suddenly we're like, oh, fuck, our flight.
That's right.
We didn't just miss it by like 5 minutes either. We missed it by like 20, 30 minutes.
And we were at the airport.
And it was empty at the airport.
Yes.
And we're like, oh, fuck, man. We have to tape this show tomorrow. Do you remember?
Yeah, so we had to fly a different flight, and we like barely got an hour's sleep, right?
I think one of us might have had some modafinil.
Oh, that's right. We took that stuff. Yeah, that stuff, if you've never, like, New Vigil, if you've never had, or Pro Vigil or New Vigil, I think they're real similar. I don't remember which one I've used.
Yeah.
I think Pro Vigil is what I used. No, New Vigil. That's what I used. Definitely.
Vigil.
The new one. And it's not speed.
No.
But it definitely gives you energy and it keeps you awake in the weirdest way. But you're making an agreement. Like, okay, here's my agreement. I want to stay up. But I promise to get sleep from now on.
Right.
Like I'll get sleep the next day. I'm not going to keep using this. This is not something I'm going to keep using and stay up all the time.
No.
No,
Well, that's
but-
where you go crazy.
But you can use it for that. Like if
Sure.
you're a real crazy person. Like I know some people that use that shit for writing. They write on that shit.
Yeah.
And they feel like without it, they don't feel like they have any energy.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the trap of all those things. Anything that's any kind of nootropic's going to do that, man. It's like, but also I think some people from the sleep deprivation, that's where they become antennas for the good ideas. You know, they like to get in this like fevered state of not sleeping for days at a time and go literally insane. And somewhere in there, they write really good stuff.
That's what news radio, the staff at news radio, they used to do that on purpose.
I believe it.
Paul Sims, a brilliant guy, the guy who created news radio, and he thought it would be a good idea to have a writing staff filled with a bunch of psychos who were willing to play video games and stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning every night. There was like this mad vagabond crew of writers that he had assembled, and they would play video games and just talk shit, and then they would start writing at like 2 a.m. sometimes. But they would come up with these amazing scripts and the scripts were so ridiculous. Some of them were so ridiculous, and it's because they were delirious when they were writing them. They were just, instead of doing drugs, they were doing the drug of just staying awake.
Dude, this is for me. I'd started doing this about 6 months ago, maybe a little longer. Waking up at 4 a.m., regardless of when I went to sleep. I was having some insomnia. And so I realized like, shit, I'll just like wake up when I wake up. And then waking up 4 a.m., if you have insomnia, that is going to cure your fucking insomnia because when nighttime rolls around, you're exhausted. But not only that, 4 a.m. is like the great time for writing weird shit.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're still half asleep. And the stuff you write it's like, really feels like you're tripping, you know, especially waking up at 4 a.m. and then like eating weed. I was doing that.
So do you eat weed first and then start writing?
Yeah, well, no, my system before the fucking apocalypse was, and again, I wasn't doing this every day, but I did do it for a stretch because I got into David Goggins.
Oh,
but like
shit.
the Goggins flu, man. I'm waking up at 4. I gotta go. But 4 a.m., eat weed, go to the gym. And because I was at the gym, that's where I would write.
You were there that early?
Well, no, because it would open it. I got there once before the gym opened.
You must have felt like a savage.
No, I didn't, dude, because what happened was I got to the gym and then I did it. I felt pretty fucking cool. But then I went into the car and I had like 30 minutes to blow. And I'm fucking stoned, man. And I'm sitting there baked. And I'm like, fuck it. I'll just like sit in the car and try to meditate. This is in the parking garage of the goddamn Hollywood Equinox. Now, let me tell you something, man. That area of Hollywood is already fucking weird, but I'm sitting there with my eyes closed. I'm kind of tripping. Feel like I'm half asleep, half awake. I look over. There are 2 dudes creeping up to my car window. Creeping up there. And I'm like, what the fuck? I was sitting in the passenger side. I jumped to the driver's side, started the car. I'm driving through the parking garage stoned. These 2 weirdos were definitely walking up to my car. I'm like tripping. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm not going to work out. And so I leave and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm going to let these 2 like 4 a.m. weird vampires stop me from working out. So I drive back in. One of them's like leaning up against a pillar, like just staring at me. Creepy, dude. These people look like the Lost Boys or something.
Well, they're probably preying on the cars of people that go to work out. They're probably looking for a car to break into.
Right.
I mean, that's what, like 4 a.m. people that are out on meth, and they know that there's these assholes that like to go to the gym and leave their shit in their car.
Right. There you go.
There you go.
It was terrifying. But, you know, that's what you get at 4 to 5 a.m. is you get meth heads and you get people who are trying to improve their lives. It's the funniest mix of people. You get people who are like, I'm not going to waste a fucking second. I'm going to get up early. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to write. Because that's when, like, I mean, this is a woo-woo idea. Feel free to light that shit again. But, like, there's an idea of prana, which is like energy. And there's more energy in the morning than there is at night. So if you get up at 4, you're getting, like, the purest, most amount of this shit. So that's why a lot of people meditate it really early, why, like, a lot of monks get up really early. Is because, like, it's I don't know, it's just it's the most psychedelic time. Way more psychedelic than, like, midnight.
Yeah, and it has, you're exerting some form of control over your life.
That especially.
Right?
Just that.
You're exerting discipline. Like my friend Jocko always says, discipline equals freedom. He gets up every morning at 4:30.
There you go.
And he puts a photo of his watch on Instagram. And usually it says go time or something along those lines. Get after it.
That's so fucking cool.
Every fucking day.
It's the best. Driving, I mean, before the pandemic when there was still traffic, driving around at 4 a.m., you're awake, you're half asleep. Also, I think it's easier to work out that early because whatever part of you resists that shit is just like weak.
You got to be careful lifting weights in the morning. You really want to warm up because you can injure yourself a little easier sometimes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because you're sleeping all night and you're kind of stiff. You want to warm everything up, get everything going. They say that people lifting weights, it's not the best idea to lift like your personal record deadlifts and shit like that first thing in the morning. It's
Shit.
Yeah, you got to heat your body up.
That makes sense.
Your body's more heated up by the end of the day. By the end of the day, you're loose. You've been walking around, doing stuff, looking forward to your workout, getting pumped, and then you can go in there and work out. I used to love jiu-jitsu class at 8:30 p.m. For me, that was perfect because jiu-jitsu is like at 8:30. It's like, man, I got plenty of energy. I've eaten all day. You know, it's like I'm not tired yet. Like going to bed tired. But, you know, because back then I was going to bed at like 2 o'clock in the morning every night anyway. But it was like 8:30 was perfect. Done by 10. I'd hit the Comedy Store, be on stage at 11.
That's crazy. I don't like working out at night.
I loved it. It's great because you have energy, but it's easy to do because you wake up at noon, you know, and just fucking stumble out of bed, do whatever bullshit you have to do that day. If I have my day off, if I'm, you know, doing stand up at night, it's easy. You just eat and hang out and then eventually work out. But if you get up in the morning, you get a little bit of a victory.
Yeah,
man. A little bit of a victory, just having accomplished that thing. You've gotten up, and then next thing you know, you're doing chin-ups.
Maybe you're doing chin-ups.
You not doing any chin-ups?
Well, I could do like 2.
Then do 2.
What it would be is like me sitting on those nice couches at Equinox. Writing, because like I so don't want to work out. Yeah, I would procrastinate, and that's when I realized it's like I do my best writing at the gym.
That's hilarious. So do you bring a little notebook with you?
Fuck yeah! I just started bringing my gear there to write, and then I would just sit and write, and I would spend so much time writing because that part of you that doesn't want to work out would rather write.
Yeah.
It's like when you have to write and you find yourself cleaning. It's that, you know, you can like sort of convert your procrastination into something positive.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Then I would go work out, you know, but when I was doing that, man, I was getting the best ideas. I was just running on the treadmill, stoned at, 5:30 or whenever the fucking gym opened. And I was listening to this, like, I started listening to, that was when I was listening to Goggins. So I'd be blasted listening to Goggins running on the fucking treadmill, like, yeah, fuck yeah, I can run. I'm going to do an ultra fucking marathon. How about that? I'm never going to do an ultra marathon. You listen to him too, and he's aware that people like me are going to be hypnotized by him because he's like, don't do what I'm doing. You can kill yourself. He knows like there's all people like whose hearts are just exploding.
How many people do you think
have collapsed at the gym because of David Goggins? I bet like what, 30,000 people have just like driven themselves.
Yeah, for sure. There's probably a lot of blown out knees out there.
Blown out
fucked
knees.
up backs,
Yeah.
torn biceps.
That guy will run with his foot falling off. That book is really good. What's that? It's called Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah.
Jeez, it's like
It's amazing.
He like sews his calf muscle back on with twigs and becomes a Navy SEAL. He's a badass, man.
100%.
That guy could if that guy wanted to like burrow into an elephant, he could. Like
He's a good dude too. I like hanging out with him.
he must be.
I've hung out with him a few times. Gone to dinner a few times.
Really?
Yeah. He went to the fights a couple times. He's a good dude. He's a fun guy. I enjoy him.
Me and my friend think he's enlightened.
He's something special. There's a switch that guy has that we all wish we had, where he can power through. But also he's a beacon of inspiration. Like for other people, when David Goggins does the shit that he does, and when he has those speeches while he's running, you know. Like it's like someone was talking to him. It was like 104 degrees outside, and he goes, "Why are you running?" He goes, "I'll tell you why I'm running. Because you're not, motherfucker."
Yeah.
He goes, "That's why I'm running." And and he's out there just. He's constantly doing it. Like he's constantly pushing himself.
That's what I love.
Yeah.
To me, he's like a servant in that way. He's a servant. He's a servant to the world. He's not just like, he's really giving people, because like he posts pictures of himself when he was like sort of fat all the time, man. And like
all
he's
the time.
showing people like, look, this is the possibility. At any moment, you can do this at any moment. And I love that because I know when I see him, like he's like running through glass. He's running in like, he's like running through like swarms of mosquitoes and malarial swamps just to show people, look, the part of you that's telling you that you can't do this because of X in your environment is probably wrong. Not all the time, but for sure, man, a lot of the time, wrong.
A lot of the time.
And that, for a lot of us, that's like so powerful. Like of all the self-help books I've listened to, I listened to them on Audible. That's the best one. By far, hands down, that's the best one, man. But
because it's real. It's not from a guy who really hasn't done anything that's trying to get you motivated to go out there and conquer in life. It's from a guy who's actually done some really fucking crazy shit and is telling you that you can do it too and that he used to be weak.
yeah,
He's doing something right now because Cameron Haynes' son, Truett, is trying to break Goggins' 24-hour chin-up record. So Goggins was I think it's on Cameron Haynes' Instagram page. See if he put the video on his Instagram page. But he was at some ungodly number of chin-ups.
What?
When they were making the video.
He's trying to break that record.
Yeah. He's like, I've been doing chin-ups for 9 hours straight.
Fuck that.
And he was at like 1,500 chin-ups or something stupid.
Crazy.
Yeah, and he still had all those hours to go. So I think it might even be like a 2-day thing. I don't know how many days they're supposed to be doing this. But it's does he have it in there with Goggins? Is there a video of Goggins doing chin-ups?
I mean, the stories of
I hope I'm not releasing any information that shouldn't get out.
Is this live again?
Nope.
Oh, there you go.
Can't find it. Whatever. Anyway,
You want to see this show?
I would love to see your show. So anyway, shout out to Truett.
Good luck, Truett.
Shout out to Goggins. I hope they battle.
All right, this thing, Netflix. I told them.
What's it called?
It's called The Midnight Gospel.
The Midnight Gospel with Duncan Trussell.
And Pendleton Ward, the guy who made Adventure Time, this cartoon.
Beautiful.
It comes out 4/20.
Look at that.
Netflix. This has never been seen. It's exclusive for your show. They gave us permission.
Goodness.
This is Joey Diaz is in this, and this is a podcast I did.
I'm taking off my glasses.
Yeah, I gotta take mine off. This is a podcast I did with Damien Eccles. Do you know who that is? He was like in the group of kids who got accused of murdering someone in the woods. There's a whole...
No.
Oh, yeah. There's like a whole documentary about him on, I think, HBO. It's like, basically, this dude, I had him on my podcast. He wrote a book on magic. He practices magic. But
Jesus, Duncan.
he was on death row. and they did a DNA test that exonerated him. But he was like about to be executed. He's on death row studying Zen Buddhism. Like a Zen priest was working with him to like basically like prepare him for his death. So he was badly beaten on death row. He was almost executed. Then he was exonerated because of DNA. But we did this interview before the show, obviously, and this is just a way that we figured out to take podcasts and put them in.
Hey, once he gets exonerated, before we start this, do they have to pay him?
I don't know. It's a great question. I think maybe part of it that they may. I don't want to say because I have no idea. I think
if the guy's on death row for the wrong reason, it seems like you owe him something.
Well, yeah,
he's literally innocent.
Yeah, I would
He's
think
an actual innocent person that you almost killed, and then you made their life hell.
Yeah.
Imagine the torture of knowing you didn't do something, but being accused of that thing.
Well, I know, man.
And knowing it's going to cost you your life, and you really didn't do it.
Yeah.
All right, let's play it.
You know how in certain Buddhist traditions,
yeah,
like say Tibetan Buddhism, they talk about, what's the word they use, empowerment?
Sure.
It's like a current of energy that is passed along from master to student. Ceremonial magic is the exact same thing. The Knights Templar started receiving this current whenever they were over there. That's how it makes its way back to Europe. Eventually, it makes its way to the United States through the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which was the order that Crowley was a member of before he, went off to the OTO. You had McGregor Mathers, Dion Fortune, the poet W.B. Yeats. All of these people were members of the Golden Dawn. That's how this current makes its way to the U.S.
1 second. Hey, Steve!
What the fuck? You need to shine that light in my fucking eyes?
If that's how you're gonna talk to customers, I'll just take my ship full of cats and find another junk island.
A ship full of cats? Ah, shit. My apologies! Look at all these wonderful gifts and gadgets here. We got a fresh printer, time slapper, and some cans, and... Oh. You want that? A vintage Enlil? Ugh. It ain't cheap, pal. It's gonna be 5 cats.
He's bluffing. I can get it for 3. Watch this. 3.
5.
Fine, Steve. 4. And that's my last offer.
All right. You're taking flakes out of my minnow's mouth, but fine. 4 it is. Send them over.
That is so Duncan Trussell. That's so bizarre.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man. It was the craziest thing working on that show with Pendleton because he's like we throw the word genius around, but the guy's an actual genius. So it was like really, really, really cool to get to do.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's a combination of your podcast and then some interstitial stuff that is scripted.
It's like basically my character is this guy Clancy who lives in a place called the Chromatic Ribbon where people use multiverse simulators to simulate universes so that they go inside and harvest the technology and sell it. And so my character has a malfunctioning used multiverse simulator that isn't really working to produce technology. And because it's malfunctioning, every single world in it is going through some kind of apocalypse. And so my character goes into his simulator and interviews people in the dying world. So that's basically the idea of the show. So we took podcast dialogue. It's basically what happens with, during the apocalypse, what's going to happen? People are going to do podcasts. People are going to still have conversations. Yeah. So these conversations, we just set them in these surreal universes where shit's melting down and, where like Clancy meets these various people and kind of learns from them.
What's crazy is you started this a long time ago and it's coming to fruition right when the apocalypse hits.
I know, dude. That's the thing. It's like a little on the nose. I mean, I didn't want...
It's on the nose.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's almost like, it's almost like you knew. It's almost like you had a time, and then the universe is like, this is a perfect time for Duncan shit to come out, and let's coincide it. I mean, look at how bizarre your show is.
Yeah.
How strange And then the fact that it's a hybrid of podcast conversations and then written stuff. So strange.
Yeah,
it's
man.
Perfect time for it.
I think it is the perfect time for it, and I hope because some of the every guest we chose for this, they all had this really amazing thing to say. Like Eccles in this episode, one of the things he says, I asked him do you feel like you kind of were blessed that you ended up in solitary confinement? Because that's where he woke up. That's where he started meditating. That's where he started studying magic. That's where he started working on himself because there was nothing else to do.
Right.
And in this one, he says, I feel luckier than some millennials out there right now who are completely disconnected. Because that's the coolest thing about him is you would expect a person who'd been on death row to be bitter. He's the sweetest, most genuine, wonderful person ever. And it's whatever went on in the situation of being on the brink of the abyss where he's about to get murdered by the state for something he didn't do. Something about that didn't turn him into someone who was shell-shocked or angry, but really turned him into someone very compassionate and I guess grateful for his life. And that to me, it's he's the Goggins of death row. I mean, if you can be not bitter after being on death row for something you didn't do and getting physically assaulted, just wondering every day if you were going to die, if you can still maintain an attitude of service or contribution to society in some way or another, then any of us can. Any of us can, any of us can. And to me, that's I hope some of that stuff trickles out from the show into the world. Right now, especially, man. Right now, especially.
When you say he studies magic, what do you mean by that?
So, he wrote a great book called High Magic, which is, I think that's what it's called. It's a fantastic book on, magic is really the wrong word for it. There's an entire, mythos or religion that got sort of wiped out by, Terrence McKenna talks about it a lot. It got kind of wiped out by, superstition. So witchcraft, as we understand it now because of Hollywood, is ladies riding around on brooms and shit. But it just used to be midwifery. It used to be healing women who would deliver babies and stuff. But these were all connected to, they all had pagan roots. And so essentially you can follow back this branch of data that some people say started in Sumeria or Egypt, ways of meditating, ways of connecting with the universe that are ritualistic in nature, but seem mysterious to us because even though if you want to see what it looks like, just look at a Catholic Mass. You're looking at a ceremony. It's theurgy, I guess you'd call it. That is a magical ceremony where bread gets converted into the flesh of a god that you eat. So they're all wearing robes, they're burning incense. So that is magic. That's what ceremonial magic looks like. It's non-different from ceremonial magic. Someone in the Catholic Church might tell you, this isn't magic. This is me praying to the infinite and asking for forgiveness. That's magic. You're connecting with a divine intelligence. You're hoping from your connection with the divine intelligence to produce some change in your own psychology, in your own life, and maybe create good fortune or whatever it is you're praying for, healing, whatever it may be. That's magic. So magic is that. And that I'm not saying the Catholicism would necessarily be considered a branch of magic. But I mean, one of the things he said in this interview is if the Bible is one of the most powerful magical grimoires there is. I mean, you read that shit, if you really look in it, there's all kinds of bizarre stuff that doesn't seem to make it onto Christian radio.
Like what?
Well, when in the book of Genesis, it's why do they refer to themselves as a plurality? When God's talking, it's not when they're saying why do we throw Adam and Eve out of the garden? It's if we don't do something about this, they will become like us. There's a plurality that's being mentioned there. And so what is that plurality? So throughout the Bible, there's mentions of angels. The book of Ezekiel, the famous one that ufologists go to.
Yeah.
is there's all these contacts with angels, hyperdimensional beings that have some data set they want to bring to the world. Quite often, depending on what book you're in, it's some terrifying prophecy about the end of the world that's coming. But sometimes it's, some message of hope or some message of healing. So you could say magic is a non-Christian oriented method for connecting with those various entities using ritual. That's one branch of it. Now, I'm not saying, by the way, these beings exist or don't exist, but you could say if you wanted to get like psychological, you could say we have buried inside of us archetypes, bits of the collective that are buried deep inside of us, and that there are ways to connect to these little fragments of the collective mind. And, many people have their own method for doing that. One of the methods to do that might be doing a ritual. And for a moment, allowing yourself to imagine that you're trying to talk to an extra-dimensional being. Aleister Crowley famously did one of these rituals and contacted I can't remember what the being was called, but it looks like a gray alien. This is before people were talking about gray aliens. Will you look that up?
Did he draw it?
He drew it. There's a drawing of it, yeah, and it looks like a gray alien.
What year was this?
It's like the 1800s.
Aleister Crowley was in the 1800s?
Yeah, right, 1900s.
Dude, when you keep pulling at your ghillie suit, you remind me of a drunk, overweight girl with large breasts that keeps adjusting her halter top. Like you're in Florida outside drinking at some motel.
Having a great night.
I told that motherfucker, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to leave you, Clarence. I'm tired of your bullshit. I told them with a cigarette in her hand, wow, look at that drawing by Aleister Crowley.
Yeah.
That does look like a gray alien.
Yeah, man. And
that's what we're going to look like, man. Let's cut the shit, right? That's what we're going to look like. Right? When you see people that are hairy and brutish, we think of them as being like closer to prehistoric man, right?
Yeah.
We see a guy covered in hair. He looks more like a beast.
Yeah.
And when we see people that are thinner and more slender, they become more a gentle version of people. And we associate that oftentimes with intelligence. We directly associate intelligence with frailty, right? We all do that. When you see some super genius guy, usually they're frail.
Right.
And occasionally they're badasses, but there's a lot of those super genius guys that couldn't fight their way out of a wet paper bag.
Right.
Well, Hawking's the ultimate example because his body literally failed him while he was coming up with his greatest discoveries.
Yeah.
So this is our future. We're gonna have big heads. They're gonna fucking CRISPR your way into a head that lets you live in any dimension you want at any time. You transport yourself from one planet to the other. Imagine what we've done with our stupid monkey brains. Now imagine it was 150% larger. 150% more brain, and then incorporated all sorts of fucking electronics that let you interface with space-time around you and all kinds of other wacky ways of communicating we couldn't even possibly imagine now, just like people from the 1800s couldn't have ever possibly imagined cell phones.
Right. And this is the idea, is like, okay, we're going to go there. And then when we get there, the way we understand space-time is going to be different than the way we understand it now.
Yeah.
So what that means is, theoretically, you could connect or communicate with a being that is outside of space-time, which is a future version of us right now, using like various methods, DMT being one of the big ones on the planet right now, but also using other methods that are a little bit more precise. Because with DMT, it's kind of like you're not really putting in GPS coordinates necessarily. Some people do it with intention, like a shaman will do it like with intention and can like, excuse me, can you give me another Bloody Mary?
I told you, Clarence, I'll fucking leave you. Cigarette in your hand, flip-flops on. I will fucking leave you.
Clarence, if you keep summoning these demons, I am out of here.
Clarence is over there with Miller Lite. You ain't going nowhere. Just stop. Just fucking stop. You always do this. She gets drunk. She says she's leaving. I'ma fucking leave you.
I'm out of here, Clarence.
Clarence, I'm gonna fucking leave you, you son of a bitch.
I'm putting on my ghillie suit and going down to Tampa.
You son of a bitch. I'm gonna visit my family in Clearwater.
I'm out of here, Clarence. It's over. Anyway, maybe you can connect through time and space to these things that are already here. Like our understanding of time and space, we're locked in, man. But like, so magic is like ridiculous on one level, as it absolutely sounds and is on one level. On another level is at the very least a creative technique so that you can sort of summon a dream state while you're awake with the intent of causing some change in the world around you using, for a lot of people, what would be considered a non-standard way.
Well, just in terms of your perception of how you view the world, you can alter that pretty radically. I mean, from someone who has an amazingly positive perception versus someone who has an amazingly negative perception, you look at the results.
Right.
Overwhelming benefit of being a positive person. Like
Overwhelming.
There's something to thoughts and ideas that propel you in a good way, and for having a good architecture, for having a good philosophy, having a good operating manual for how you view the world and how you act and behave. Part of that's you getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's what that is. You're like enforcing your ability to sort of dictate the positive aspects of your future. You're deciding to take action. You're strengthening your bond with the way you interface with current reality.
And I was doing it, not ritualistically.
What happened? Why did it stop?
What the fuck? Oh, Christmas. God damn
Listen,
it.
man, if you want to meet me here, I'll meet you here. We could do some 5 a.m. sessions.
I'd love that, man.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I would love that.
Let's do it. I'm 100% down.
Yeah.
Come down here. We'll get pumped. We'll put Slayer on and fucking rock out. Rock.
I'm down. What else do we have to do?
What else do we have to do? It'd be a great thing. Look, I'll tell you one thing, though. I am enjoying not going out. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying being home most of the day other than the days I do podcasts. But not doing shows at night gives you so much more energy.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. It's crazy. And you feel like rested. Feel good.
I fucking love it, man. I get to be with my son more. It's like really nice. The place we just moved into, whoever lived there before us had a flourishing garden. So I've just been going out back, pulling spinach out of the ground.
Oh,
and
wow.
I know, man. It's
So
so
they
cool.
left you food.
They left us food.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah.
That's such a smart thing if you have a yard. I get mad at myself for not having a garden. I don't have a garden right now. I've had one in the past, but I don't have a garden right now.
Yeah.
I think it's especially now, we should realize, man, you should have food in a freezer somewhere, and you should have a garden.
That's right. And a gun.
I got some elk for you.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Man,
a lot.
the
I'm gonna hook you
Trussells
up.
would be very
I'm
grateful
gonna hook you up.
for some
Yeah.
elk.
I bought a box of these insulated freezer bags for people, too.
Dude, thank you.
Yeah, that's a nice aspect of being a hunter because you get hundreds of pounds of meat from one animal. So you can share that with a lot of people. It makes me feel real good that I'm giving some to people. Then they send me pictures of cooked food. I'm like, Tom Papa just sent me this picture.
Really?
This roast that he cooked. Yeah, he's an elk fiend now. Tom Papa eats a shitload of elk.
Well, I don't think I've ever had elk.
You'd love it. It's delicious. I'm going to give you a bunch of different kinds, but the sausage is the easiest to make.
Cool.
It's so easy. You just pan fry it. You can do it in butter. I prefer to do it in beef tallow. I just sear it in beef tallow. My favorite way to do it is I get it to like a medium temperature, and then I put tomato sauce in it and let it simmer in the tomato sauce.
Man, you're the best. Baby. That's going to be so cool for my kid to have apocalyptic Rogan elk. That's going to be the best to bring back elk during a pandemic to your family.
Well, that's an elk. That's an elk that died from a shot from a bow and arrow. There's something about that to me that there's more power to the meat. It's like not more power in that it's like a powerful thing. Do more power in that I know what that animal was. That animal is a wild beast evading predators. And me, a stupid, doughy human being, managed to sneak into range where I could hit it and kill it in one shot with a bow and arrow. I even have a video of it that my friend Cam Haynes took. So I have this animal that dropped, and then we took it apart and butchered it, and now I eat it. When I eat it, I think of what that animal was. That animal lived a majestic life. And if I didn't take it out, it would have gotten taken out by mountain lions or bears, or it would have froze to death in the winter. Sometimes that happens. Their teeth get ground down. It was an older male, too, which is what you want to get because those are the ones that have passed their DNA down. So there's a story to that meat, and there's a connection to that meat, and there's no risk from that meat. When you're thinking about the risk to society of these kind of diseases that happen through agriculture, I think one of the reasons why that is because it's not natural ever for animals to be stuffed together like that. So when it is, nature's just like, fuck you for breaking the rules. And then these viruses start spreading.
Yeah.
It's almost like that's what it is for being unnatural, because those kind of diseases don't exist that much in animals in nature. They do sometimes, like brucellosis. Like some buffalo have brucellosis.
What's that?
It's a bad disease that cattle can get, and then it can infect the cattle, and sometimes elk have it too. Like there's a few diseases, like animals always have diseases, but it seems like those ones that jump to people, the vast majority of them have come from us treating animals in a very unnatural way.
That's true. But dude, I don't mean to get all conspiratorial here, but isn't it a little weird that Wuhan is where that virology laboratory was?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know. To me, they're just...
It's weird, but it's also weird that there's bats laying on the floor there.
Good point.
That's weird too, and we know for a fact that diseases jump from. They're tracing these things. This is what's fucked up. Michael Osterholm, he's a expert in infectious diseases and viruses and stuff like that. He was explaining to us how they know certain diseases are morphing. And they're changing. They become more and more human-like. And they were talking about this one that deer get. That's called CWD. And it's called chronic wasting disease. And they first discovered it. My friend Doug Duran sent me a synopsis of when they first discovered it. But I believe it existed in like the 1980s is when they first started seeing it in animals. But it was like a mule deer here, an animal there. But now it's infected like a giant population of deer in the Midwest. And they don't really have a cure for it. It's fatal 100% of the time, and it hasn't made the jump to people, but it could.
Ugh.
And they're scared. And Michael Osterholm was saying is basically these things are morphing all the time. They're becoming more and more human-like. They're becoming more and more like something that can invade the human host.
See that?
Bro!
That's terrifying.
Terrifying. And I think there's a battle constantly going on between these things that hog up too much resources and take up too much of a population slice like humans. We're on every goddamn rock everywhere. And nature tries to throw curveballs at you. I mean, that's what nature does. Nature's like, what are you doing? You living in your own shit? Oh, great. Here's the plague. You know, like that's what's happened throughout history. With whether it was with poor sanitation or whether it was, you know, animal agriculture, whatever the fuck it is. People have caught weird diseases throughout time, whether it's different animals could bite you and give you Ebola, you know, that kind of shit. These weird diseases have existed forever, and they're basically the same as like viral panthers. Right? What's a panther? A panther's there to make sure there's not too many deer.
Yeah.
The panther is the fucking cleanup crew. Because if it wasn't for that, there would be fucking deer everywhere.
Right.
Like, you're from North Carolina.
Yeah.
You know what it's like in the country. It's crazy sometimes. Because North Carolina doesn't have any mountain lions. North Carolina doesn't have any wolves. So, like, maybe they have a little bit of wolves. But not a lot, right? They got some bears, and they got a lot of deer. They're fucking everywhere. Like, New York State, they have a terrible situation with deer in like Long Island. There's parts of Long Island that were infested with deer. And they're like, what are we doing? We can't, what are you going to just shoot them? Just going to go out and shoot? They're trying to give them birth control. They're thinking about giving deers birth control.
No shit.
Yes. Because there's no animals out there to eat them. So they just keep fucking. They just keep fucking and overpopulating.
Did you read The Stand?
Yes, I did.
Remember that? See, that was one of the things he talks about is how, as they're going down the highway, they would hit like herds of deer so thick
that's right.
it would like block the highway because they were like starting to overpopulate there because there was no one there to like cull the herd.
Dude, I had a gig once when I was living in New York, and it was in Western Massachusetts. So Western Massachusetts, if you are in New York where I was in New Rochelle, you could get there in a few hours. Like it was like 2.5, 3 hours or something like that. You get to where this area is. And where the fucking gig was so infested with deer. I've never seen anything like it in my life. You're driving down the street, and it was hot out, so it was probably the summer. So I was driving down the street, and these things are just jumping in front of the car left and right. I was like, this is nuts. Coming home on the highway was terrifying. I had to go 30 miles an hour on the highway just with my foot hovering, just ready to stomp on the brakes because these motherfuckers were just running in front of the highway.
Yeah.
I saw 100 of them. I saw them all over the place. I might have seen 200 of them driving home. Everywhere you looked, there was fucking deer.
Yeah.
Why? Because there's no predators. It's an imbalance, and eventually something's going to happen. And one of the things that has happened is Lyme disease. These fucking deer have spread this terrible disease to so many people out there through the ticks.
Yeah.
The ticks have jumped from the deer because there's so many of them. There's fucking ticks everywhere because they're well fed. And like some ungodly percentage of these ticks have fucking Lyme disease.
Right.
And they jump on people and they give it to people and the people get sick. You know, and then the people have to have a reaction to these deer, so they want to go out and slaughter the deer. Because there's too. It's almost like nature is trying to balance itself out.
Right. Or is, I mean, like, you know, for us, the goddamn COVID-19 is the worst thing that's happened to people in their lifetime, in the sense, like, the shit we're experiencing right now is completely unique.
Yeah.
But for COVID-19, I guess it's the equivalent of humans, like, colonizing another planet. Like, that fucking virus, just, like, what it did is it's amazing. Like, it finally made its way out of one biome into another. Like, it pulled it off. Whoever was down there mutating, somebody had the great idea to, like, do whatever they did. I guess it's like to create a way to connect to those two receptors. What's it called? It's like it connects to these two. Anyway, I wouldn't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
That's okay.
It's like, but what it did is so spectacular for the virus. What's a, catastrophe for humans, it's glory for the COVID-19, like, superorganism that's now sweeping through the human biome,
Yeah, and you know what else it did that's really interesting? It made it so that it doesn't give you any symptoms and you're still contagious for days.
The worst case scenario.
So you can just keep spreading it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading, a friend sent me an email from Aspen where apparently there's one Australian tourist, a bunch of Australian tourists had it, but one guy refused to quarantine, and he went skiing and went to restaurants, rode the bus,
What
and
a
like
dick.
it's like a movie. But it's a movie, right? Like that's what happens in a movie. Like there's this new thing going around, and this guy's like, fuck that, I'm here to ski.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm here to ski, I'm going to eat, I'm going to a restaurant, I'm riding the bus.
Fuck it.
Wow.
What a dick.
But that's in the movie. That's what happens, right? There's a guy who's in the lab, and they're like, you have to be quarantined in the lab. And the guy's like, fuck this, I'm going outside. And he has a cigarette, and then something bites him and runs off. And then that thing carries it in its teeth and bites a person. And the next thing, it spreads to people and bugs. And next thing you know, it's a fucking epidemic, and it goes through this, and then turns everybody into zombies.
Yeah.
Right? That's 28 days later, right? Wasn't it a monkey? They were working on some sort of a disease, and the monkey got out.
PETA.
Rage.
There was like it was an animal rights group trying to free monkeys that had an experimental shit had been pumped into them, and the monkeys like attacked the people trying to save them, and those people instantly turned into zombies and spread through the planet.
Well, I was reading about this mountain lion that tried to attack this. I think it was a police officer. Well, someone, I forget who but the cops had to wind up shooting the mountain lion. But the mountain lion had rabies. And now, how crazy is rabies? Rabies tricks you into biting people to give them rabies.
Yeah.
Like raccoons. Raccoons are usually terrified of people. They just run up on you when they got rabies. Squirrels, rats, all sorts of things. They're not scared of you at all. They'll just fucking jack you if they have rabies. They come after you, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Well, that thing is trying to give you its disease. It's a zombie movie.
Ugh.
And if you don't go to a doctor, if you go to a doctor, they can fix it. But if you don't go to a doctor, rabies is fatal. It's just straight up fatal. There's like one person ever that survived from rabies, and he probably wishes he didn't.
Why?
It probably was horrific. Probably, I mean, I don't know.
Does it cause permanent, like, neurological damage?
But there's very few cases of people surviving. It's more than 99% fatal. Rabies is a terrible disease to die from, apparently, too.
Oh, it looks fucking awful, man.
But there's a lot of animals that have it, and they want to bite you.
That's so
It's
crazy.
so crazy. It makes normally animals that are afraid of people, it makes them aggressive to people.
Well, I mean, dude, did you read that thing about that guy who, like, knew he had AIDS and was infecting people on purpose? He was like getting off on like giving people AIDS. Like, you wonder how much of that was his decision and how much of it was some dark mutation where it started.
Yes.
I mean, because think of like, okay, I don't know.
It's trying to spread.
I know you do this. I do it. I try not to do it as much, but the spreading of bad news. Like, you hear some bad thing that just happened.
Right.
This person died. This catastrophe happened. You get on the phone and call someone. You're like, hey, did you hear? And there's this weird rush in like spreading the bad news. You're kind of getting off on it. So in the same way your idea swarm concept, it's the same thing with bad news. You become a carrier for the darkness. And so you call it. Now, I'm not saying don't tell people when awful shit's going on, but sometimes I notice I'll go through periods where all I'm doing is telling people about shit they should be afraid of.
Yeah.
You know, spreading. And usually the way you do it is through some story about what's happening in the world. And that's really a form of contagion, you know, and then that spreads and spreads and spreads and spreads. And then everyone's freaked the fuck out. And who knows, man, maybe that creates the condition of sleepiness or sleepwalking that we need for these viruses to appear. You know,
I wonder what it is that's so attractive to us about breaking the news.
I don't know.
Did you hear who died?
Did
you hear what happened in India?
When
Did you hear
Michael
the
Jackson
earthquake?
died, I made a point
I'm
of
gonna call
every
everybody.
single one who called me.
You're going to tell them.
I know, and they're like, "Did you hear?" I'm like, "No, what?" Just to get them off, to let them have the moment of like I hadn't heard yet. Like, holy shit, really?
That's hilarious.
Wow, no, you've got to be fucking kidding me. You're joking, right? Because it's like, you know, for them, I don't know what that feeling is.
That's hilarious.
Do it the next time some awful thing happens. Like, give your friends the satisfaction.
People are going to know now. They're going to hear this podcast. They're going to know. They're going to know I used your trick. It's true, though, man. What is the rush of telling people?
I don't know. It's probably built into us, right? Because it's like a survival thing. Like if you were in a community and you knew a fire was coming, you want to tell people. So there's probably some reward mechanism.
The worst is when someone told you, but you forgot they told you, so you try to tell them, and they're like, "I told you."
Oh, you shitty listener! I broke the news to you.
My wife does that to me all the time. She's like, "I told you, dummy." I'm like, "Oh no."
Oh, I hate that feeling. That's the worst. When you get caught not listening.
You're like, "Yeah, I knew. I was just saying it again."
Yeah. You try to some pathetic escape from your lack of
From your failure.
Yeah.
No, I didn't really fail. I did it to myself.
No, I knew exactly. I remember what you were saying.
I know. I'm just talking out loud.
That's the worst. My wife has done that. Actually, where she's like, "Wait, well, what did I just say?" And you're like, "You were talking about the baby." Oh yeah.
Dude, when people are around each other all the time, they learn how to filter each other out. They have to. You need your alone space, and sometimes you get it while you're still there. You get it while you're still there by zoning out.
Yes.
You just got to be present more than you are doing that.
That's right.
That seems to be the key.
You got to zone, man. It's okay to zone. Like, don't get into some ridiculous. Definitely don't beat yourself up for zoning. Like,
No, well, especially as a creative person, I think zoning, spacing out sometimes, and just being bored, sometimes where the best ideas come from.
Yeah.
Because you could sit around and think about things. Like today, we're never bored. I mean, this is a common complaint about people when they're talking about one of the consequences, unintended consequences of social media addiction, is that you're never bored. And that being bored is actually probably not a bad thing because it fills your head up with ideas. And you start thinking about things, and occasionally you're thinking about things that are good that you might not have thought of if you're just staring at people's butts on Instagram.
That's right.
Yeah.
Boredom. Well, that's like the guy I work with with meditation, this guy, David Nichtern. He teaches me about boredom. It's a Buddhist concept, hot boredom and cool boredom. There's two types of boredom. One of them is where you're like, man, that's like the addictive boredom where you're like, I'm going to get out. I got to get, I'm bored. But there's this sense of like, the other type of boredom, cool boredom, that's more like what you're talking about, which is like just being okay where you're at in the moment, but admitting to yourself, this is boring. Like that's one of the things. It's boring. Like I'm bored right now. Like this
YouTube videos are more fun. Let me go see something crazy on YouTube. See a car chase.
Yeah. It's a fucking. Do you ever like go to your phone when you wake up at night? Do you do that? Is that your go-to? Like
when I wake up at night?
Do you ever wake up at night?
I do, and I try to go back to sleep. I never just stay up. I just go back to sleep.
See, that's what I got to stop doing it because I'll wake up and the first thing I do, reach over for the phone, start looking at it, waiting to get sleepy again.
Doesn't make you sleepy. It wakes you up.
It wakes you up.
Yeah, it's not good. It stimulates that area of your brain that gets lit up by electronics. Beep, 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 beep. It's so exciting and stimulating. Next thing you know, you're awake. I do the smoke pot thing too, and then write, but Sometimes I do the smoke pot and workout thing, and then it becomes the smoke pot and write thing, just because the rush right after you get high is like, those are where the best ideas come from. And like, I feel like you got to grab those fuckers while you have them. And if it means postponing your workout for an hour, like, that's actually the smart thing to do.
Yeah.
It's the dumb thing to do to go through the workout first, because especially if you got high. Because those ideas, they're coming hard and fast for like the first part of the high, and you probably won't get them like that for the rest of the high. So while you go from being straight sober to the big rush that you get in the beginning, that's when all my best ideas come from. It's the big rush, which is like an hour from getting high to an hour later. That's the big rush. That's when I feel like I get the most, like, where the fuck did that come from ideas?
Yeah.
And the best writing. Like, when I write things, it's like the cleanest. It's the filled with the most gems. There's more stuff in it. And then the other stuff is like editing it and putting it apart and taking it apart. But if you don't capitalize on that rush, I feel like you only get one of those a day. One big, especially like if you're sober and then you get high, that one first high rush of the day, doesn't last that long. And if you keep staying high, I don't think it's the same. I think staying high, you sort of settle in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the rush of just getting high is like, wah, ah,
Yeah.
so many ideas. If you wasted that by doing chin-ups, you're an asshole. Just
I agree.
Go right,
agree.
and then live afterwards.
Well, yeah, for sure, man. I mean, you've got to harvest when the wheat is growing. You've got to harvest. You can't just. But it's easy to trick yourself into thinking, oh no, I've got to stick to my fucking workout or whatever the thing is. It's not just working out. It's like whatever. I think it's important to prioritize those moments. I mean, especially if you're going with with what a lot of people say, which is the antenna idea. You're a receiver. You're picking up signals. You're like SETI, but not for aliens, for ideas. And these search for extraterrestrial ideas. That's what you are. You're a satellite for that. And if you start getting, I mean, imagine SETI. Imagine someone at SETI doing chin-ups, and suddenly they get like some signal from a far star system. And he's like, I'm going to finish my workout before I check out whether or not we're getting contacted by aliens. That's an asshole. Because the real question is, where do your ideas come from?
Exactly.
And if you're picking up whatever these creatures are and you've been blessed enough to get them, you should write them down.
Got to write them down.
It's kind of like, I mean,
you got to honor them.
Honor them.
Right?
Yeah.
You got to act on them. I mean, that's why people that think of the muse, like the concept of the muse, that's one of the it's a productive way to think of it. Like Pressfield writes about it, and Pressfield in The War of Art, and he's a very down to earth. He's not a silly man. He's a very down to earth person, but his perspective on the concept of the muse it's very beneficial if you follow it, because his perspective is essentially that you pay honor to this thing. You show up and you do the work like a professional, and then it responds in turn. It comes to you.
Yeah.
And then these are it's like we think of an idea, even though it's one of the most important factors in the entire construction of civilization. But somehow or another, we don't think of it as that. We think of people being that. Yeah. And we are, but we're being used by ideas. I know that sounds crazy. I really do. I know it sounds dumb too. But you're coming up with these thoughts, and we're thinking of them as like random connections that you're making in your brain, which might be. It might be that. But it also might be that ideas are like a life form from another dimension that's trying to manifest itself in our current realm. And they do so through getting into people's heads. And the more you call for them, the more they're there for you. Yeah. And the more you show up. And you can call that the muse. You can call that whatever you want.
Angels.
Tesla believed it. Tesla believes he was getting signals from some other either some other planet or some other life forms. He had some weird shit that he wrote that's hard to decipher about what he. See if you can find that, because that's a very interesting thing, Jamie. See if you can find what did Tesla. Like, Tesla had a take on receiving information from other galaxies. He had this take on where some of his inventions were coming from. It's like, what? Or some of the transmissions that he would receive. I mean, God damn, it wouldn't have been amazing to talk to that guy?
Yes.
Imagine having Nikola Tesla on the podcast.
Who knows, man? Maybe you still can one day.
Maybe we could bring him back.
Yeah, bring him back. Or like create an AI Tesla. I think a lot of people have that feeling, and some of them just don't come out of the closet, so to speak, with it because they're afraid they're going to get judged or ostracized. I think a lot of people feel like they have a direct contact with some kind of sentience that isn't embodied inside of them, and it's giving them ideas, and they're just terrified to put it out to the world because it sounds like you're fucking nuts.
His claims of receiving signals from outer space were proven right a century later. Ooh. During the summer of 1899, Tesla set up a field laboratory in Colorado Springs, Colorado, to the possibilities of using high-altitude stations to transmit information and electric power over long distances. 1 July...
This is not what
Not
we're
it?
talking about. This is about just signals, not like him getting... I went too quickly on that.
Oh, okay. Where is the signals?
This is like radio signals.
Oh, that he was getting radio signals from other planets.
After the ruling out... I think this is about sending...
After ruling out solar and terrestrial causes, he concluded the signals must be from another planet.
He had a seizure and had a vision, which is what, like, that's a...
Yeah, well, here it says, on 1 July day, while tracking lightning storms. Oh, so it's his actually equipment. His equipment picked up a series of beeps. After ruling out solar and terrestrial causes, he concluded the signals must be from another planet. The following Christmas, in response to the American Red Cross's request for a prediction of the greatest scientific achievement of the coming century, Tesla wrote, "Brethren, we have a message from another world, unknown and remote. It reads, 1, 2, 3. In 1996, scientists published a study replicating Tesla's experiment and showing that the signal was in fact caused by the moon low passing through Jupiter's magnetic field. Holy fuck. He was picking up a moon passing through Jupiter's magnetic field.
Yeah. But he had woo ideas too, man.
Oh, yeah, he was in love with a pigeon.
He's in love with a pigeon. Not just that, though. He, like, I think he did think he was in contact with, like, some kind of sentient intelligence, for sure.
Why not? Why wouldn't you think? If you're that smart, imagine how smart he was in comparison to, like, a regular dope. Hey, mister, you want to buy a paper? You know, those people from back then. Some fucking dude selling papers in the corner, and then the greatest genius the world's ever known up to that point.
Yeah.
Wandering around, trying to figure out how to send electricity through the sky.
Maybe that's all intelligence is, though, man. Is like having the willingness to let yourself go crazy enough to believe you're not the creator of your ideas, to believe that you're an antenna. Maybe that's what makes a person intelligent. Maybe that's all it takes, that and discipline.
Well, yeah, the discipline to learn all the things that you need to know to be able to study and actually implement that technology. It's like Tesla was both things. He was a genius, and he was probably some sort of a visionary in that way. Like he had, like Elon has, he had an extra large magnet for ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude.
I think anyone can do that.
How strong is this weed?
Fucking strong,
Pretty
man. I'm
goddamn
so
good,
glad.
right?
Anytime you give me weed, I'm always forget how strong it is. And every time I'm like, fuck, man, you got to be careful.
We go high grade up in this bitch, son. It's important to go high grade.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think is going to happen to us? Do you think we're going to get through this in relatively short order, or do you think this is going to take 5-6 months? How long do you think this is going to take?
Oh, God damn, these
The lockdowns
predictions
are crazy.
come back and haunt you.
Like San Francisco, the lockdown is crazy. 3 weeks, 24 hours, stay off the streets, don't go to work.
Yeah, man, I think we're probably going to look like, listen, if you want to hear my like just instinct, which is definitely going to be wrong, I think it's going to get better much faster than we expect. I don't know why I think that. I have no reason to think that. If you go by what they're saying, we're looking at like months and months and months. I guess like if I have to choose between listening to my own stoned intuition regarding stuff, which fits into my desires, which is I want it to blow over because I don't want people to get sick. I don't want to live in the apocalypse. I have a son. I don't want to run out of food. I want things to get back to normal. I want to go around people.
Yeah.
But if you look at like, unless it's some vast, ridiculous conspiracy, I think we're looking at least a couple of months, man. I mean, and I'm going by not a conspiracy because I think that because I have a son now, and if I listen to my own instincts when it comes to shit for my kid, I'm going to be afraid to vaccinate him. I'm going to be afraid to do things that like millions of scientific papers have shown is safe, that's good for his health, because I'm like going to get superstitious. So I lean into science. It saved my life, you know. Science kept cancer from spreading through my body and killing me. I'm going to trust the scientists right now and self-isolate and try as much as possible to not spread this shit. And I think that that's, even if it turns out to be a panic, a hysteria, whatever, at least you were part of the people who weren't fucking going out and skiing during this fucking thing. So I think it's going to go on longer. And I think while it goes on longer, if you have the ability to limit human contact and to avoid the superstitious part of yourself that I've got too, that's looking at this and thinking like, come on, really? I don't know anyone who's sick. I don't know.
It's also a rejection from change, a rejection of change that you don't have any control over.
Denial, man.
You deny that it's happening.
Because that's the easiest thing to do. If you deny that it's happening, you don't have to face the fear. And if you don't face the fear, well, then you put yourself in danger. But really, probably, I don't know how old you are out there, but you really, who you're putting in danger is somebody's granddad.
Yes.
That's the main thing, is like...
And people with diseases, people with
autoimmune disorders.
Yeah, people that are compromised. There's a lot of us that are not that strong. Maybe some people are recovering from something, like talking to Jonathan Ward yesterday, and his wife's recovering from cancer. She's going through chemo. So like they want to make sure she doesn't have to deal with any of this shit. Like not exposed to any of it. Those are the type of people we have to be really scared of. People that are compromised.
Right.
But this is a fucked up moment for us, but a learning moment. I really hope that this prepares us in case something really horrible comes down the pipe. And I hope it prepares us for understanding that this is a possibility. It lets us understand, like, hey, we need to accept this. This is how it goes. And if there's some new shit that comes on, let's act quicker and let's take care of this quicker. And like, if everybody just had a 2-week off thing, like, and this was something that Dana White and Frank Fertitta were talking about before anyone did it. Frank Fertitta told Dana White, he's like, why don't we just have everything shut down for 2 weeks? Just no one go to work, no one do anything, 2 weeks, stop the planes. And the way he explained it to me was like, he said, pull the Band-Aid off of it. I'm like, that is actually probably a really good idea. Well, guess what? Now that's being mandatory forced in certain cities where they've got bad outbreaks. If they had just done that the moment it cut loose, just no one goes anywhere for 2 weeks, let's nip this fucking thing in the bud. Yeah. If that was really done, they're right. It really, if you could really get that to be implemented at a scale of 350 million people.
Amazing. But
you definitely would have radically slowed down the pace. We weren't ready.
Well, now we know.
Yeah, I hope we learn, and I hope it doesn't morph, and I hope it doesn't get more deadly, and I hope they can figure out a way to allocate funds to get more respirators, and all that shit has to be done.
And you can make your own hand sanitizer.
Yeah, I heard that too. But you can just wash your hands with soap too.
Yeah.
Soap apparently kills it.
What do you think are like the 3 things you should have at your house?
You should have food. You should have water or something that purifies water. Whether they're water purification tablets, you can buy iodine tablets. There's
Why that? Well, you think
things.
The city water is going to get turned off?
Anything can happen. You might need to drink water that you don't want to drink.
Right.
That's possible. You might have to drink puddle water. Look, the reality is, if things go real bad, you might have to drink from a lake.
Right.
Okay? And that's what water is. Water, we take water from various sources and they purify it, and, rainwater and all kinds of other shit. That's what we're drinking on a daily basis. We're drinking this weird processed water. Yeah. The water you're really supposed to be drinking is the stuff that comes right out of the ground. That's what you're supposed to be drinking. But if you get stuff that's biologically infected, you get stuff that, animals have been in, it's animal waste, feces and stuff, or bacteria or diseases or anything, you can purify that. You could take these water tablets and you drop them in there and it kills everything. It torches the water. So in cases of emergency, like backpackers, they'll find like an elk wallow and they can drink that water out of a fucking elk wallow.
Really?
There's a thing called a SteriPen is another thing they use. Yeah. The SteriPen actually uses ultraviolet light. Like, say you have a water bottle, you fill it up with like elk piss, and you like wave your thing because you're trying to stay alive. You're out there. If there's no water, like if you're on like a high country desert mule deer hunt and you can't find any water, you got to take water wherever you can get it. because you're not bringing all your water up there if you're staying there for 12 days. You're hoping you could find creeks, and you might not find a creek. And if you do, it might be fucked up. There might be a dead animal in it. Like shit. Like something might have gone there to die and polluted the water, or beavers might have shit in it. Like you have to have something that kills all that stuff. So that's something that people should have. They should have, I think you should have some sort of a first aid kit. Bandages, things like that, disinfectants, antibiotics, stuff like that. You should probably have something like that in case something goes wrong and someone gets hurt and there's no hospital available, or there's no doctor, or you have to wait in the morning before you can take someone to a doctor, whatever the fuck the problem is. You should have that. You should have batteries that you've charged, right? Like cell phone, get some backup batteries. Charge those bitches,
Right.
you know? If you have a generator, fantastic, but some people can't afford one and they don't have the room for one, and they can't have one. It's not feasible if you live in an apartment building. But having charged batteries for phones is very important. Food and water. Food and water are number one, right? You want to have dried foods, things like rice and pasta. You could store a lot of it. You could eat. It's high in calories. You can eat it, and it doesn't take up too much room. There's, canned things you can keep forever. That's what you want. You want food that you could have, like that you could keep you alive.
Well, let me ask you this, man, because this is like something I've been talking to people, and myself, I've experienced it a little bit. I don't know if you have. But what about those of us who are like kind of secretly freaking out right now, man?
Not so secretly.
Yeah. How do we, like, to me, that's like, I think one of the big questions is, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was like, man, I totally was losing my shit yesterday, man. And like, I told him, like, dude, me too.
Everybody.
Yeah, but what, like, how the fuck are we gonna deal? It's just such a weird form of anxiety. I've never had this kind of anxiety before.
There's an invisible monster.
Yeah.
Invisible monster that wants to kill your grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah, an invisible monster that kills upwards the high levels, like somewhere around 3% of the people. You know, and with old people, it's even worse. With people over 80, I think it's it's really deadly. It's fucking scary, man. And what's scary is this is only one of many that could be coming our way.
Right.
And that this happens every, X amount of years or something. Last one was, H1N1 and SARS and this and that. And there's always a new one. And just the fucking flu, man. I didn't, until we were looking into this, I didn't know how many people the flu killed.
Yeah.
The flu can kill 90,000 people in America every year.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know that. Did you know that?
I knew that.
So when they say this is 10 times more deadly than the flu, you're like, holy fuck, maybe 15 times more?
Yeah.
Holy fuck, that's 1 million people. That's 1 million plus.
Yeah.
That's scary. That's scary. That's scary. And then, other really horrible diseases that have devastated populations, those are possible too, and new ones are possible.
Joe, I was asking, how do we deal with the fucking anxiety? Now I'm feeling the
You got to
anxiety.
look at it. You got to look at it for what it is. This is reality. The way to deal with anxiety is to be prepared as best you can, accept where you are and what you are and who you are, and just live. It reprioritizes our values. That's what's going to be good out of this. Nothing good ever comes from having it too easy.
Right.
Like for us, I think as a culture, having it too easy was probably a little bit toxic to us. Like always eating junk food. We're always eating sugar. That's all we're eating. It's okay to eat cake every now and then, but you can't just live off cake. Well, as a culture, there's a lot of what we're doing. We're living off cake. Have you ever seen that Werner Herzog documentary, Happy People, Life in the Taiga? It's a great documentary about these really nomadic people that live in Siberia, and they're super happy. And they live in these log houses that they build themselves. They show them building these houses. They don't have enough mosquito repellent. They have to make their own mosquito repellent with like tar, and they grind it up and add stuff to it and then rub it all over their face and everything. And they're super happy. They live up in Siberia, dude. It's so fucking cold. It's only summer for like 3 or 4 months. It's only like nice out. And then the rest is just bitter, brutal cold where the winter freezes the river solid, where you can ride a snowmobile over the river. So they use the river like the highway. And they all have dogs, and they run around trapping and killing animals and living off the land and catching fish and living off the fish. Dude, they're so happy. What's fucked up is these people are encountering life-threatening adversity every day. If you stay outside, you will die.
Right.
You will die just from exposure to the cold. It will kill you. It's 50 below zero outside. It will fucking kill you. And because of that, they're all like happy and smiling and laughing. And the documentary just shows like it's weird. We're never happy like this in a collective group unless we're all living in this constant state of like alertness and consequences for inaction. Like there's no lazy people there, man.
Right.
Everybody does their part. You have to.
Yeah.
And they're all working and laughing, and they're all making their own canoes out of boards that they're chopping out of logs. They're hollowing out these canoes and stretching them out. And it's amazing, man. They're just always working, and they're always happy. It's so weird.
That's it. That, to me, I think a lot of people don't even realize that you can work together with people, not for money, just to do stuff.
For community.
And how fun that is when you find yourself, even, you know, my wife and I fucking moving and like unpacking boxes. It's been like nonstop for the last like 4 days. Like, and we've had to like, you know, there's something in it, even though it's terrifying, that really is joyful. And is so like, feels more alive than I've felt in a long time. I think that's the thing we've got to tune into, is that if nothing else, we're alive right now.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And maybe this just maybe we can become like those people up there. I mean, I think that's one of anytime a fucked up thing happens to you personally, it's a chance to become a bitter piece of shit, or a little more angry, or a little more tired, or a little more depressed, or to become a hero. Anything, whatever it may be, any bit of phenomena that comes your way as a person. You know, anytime I find, like anytime something's really got to get done that I've been procrastinating, or anytime some shitty, unexpected thing comes my way, I have a moment to decide, am I going to react to this? Like I always react to shitty things,
Right.
And like become negative or dark or get pissed? Or can I like react to it in a completely new way? And I think every time you do a new way, this is my woo-woo concept, you pop into a different part of the multiverse. It's a little better than the one you were in before. And it's like a trajectory you can go on. When I was getting stoned at the gym at 4 a.m., I was imagining on the treadmill that I was running through the multiverse towards a healthier version of me. Whoa. That I wasn't getting in shape, I was actually being inhaled into a more in shape version of me that already existed. That's the kind of shit I have to do to get myself to work out.
Dude, that's heavy.
Yeah, man. It's fun to do that, you know? Every single decision is like a binary. Do you want to continue doing the shit you've been doing over and over again, whatever it may be, or do you want to try a mildly new way? And every time you do that, sure as shit, it's not just you that starts changing. You'll notice like other stuff starts changing too around you. You know, things just tend to generally get better.
Yeah. I think there's thoughts that I've had that are real similar to that, where I've wondered, like if multiverses are real and there's supposed to be different versions of you, infinite versions all over the universe, why are we assuming that this is the same every day you wake up in the same version?
Yeah.
Why are we assuming that?
Exactly.
The thing about sleep is you just go away. Then you come back with a memory of what life was like before you went away. Yeah. And you wouldn't notice if it just slid you one notch to the right or one notch to the left into the multiverse. If there's an infinite number of Duncans out there with ghillie suits and gas masks on,
Yeah.
and you just slid over to the right by letting a little old lady in front of you and not even complaining when she was driving 30 miles an hour.
That's it.
You're like, it's all right. She's a nice lady. Let me just get around her nice and slow and safe.
Yeah, that's it.
Wave to her. Hi.
And the more you do that, the more you do that, the more you start running into other people who are doing the same thing. You start ending up in that part of the multiverse where many other people are doing the same thing.
Yes.
And eventually, you know, theoretically, I think, eventually through those series of decisions, maybe that's where you can that's where all of a sudden you start realizing like, oh shit, I'm in a temple. I'm not even in in a reality that I thought I was in. I was just like in a deep state of contemplative meditation.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. I mean, there's all kinds of interesting experiments you can do. Have you ever heard the term pronoia? Pronoia? It's the opposite of paranoia, where you think the universe is conspiring to help you instead of hurt you.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we'll call our group.
Pronoia.
Pronoia.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
perfect.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, we needed a name, then it just came to us.
Pronoia.
Sounds like a dope band.
Yeah.
Gonna go see Pronoia at the Staples Center.
Pronoia. It's fun. If
Yeah.
you do that, if you really do imagine that every single thing that's happening in your life is a grand conspiracy
To help you.
to advance you, to
Yeah.
bring you, or another way to put it, do you ever listen? I love listening to Christian radio. This guy was talking about a thing called convection, which is being inhaled into the Christ. So
Ooh.
when you start like,
Like a black hole?
well, I think like a white hole, I guess it would be a black hole.
Like gobbling up planets?
Like you're being like
Christ is-
drawn into the super intelligence, and you're becoming you're being sort of lifted up into it. The thing that makes the fucking big green egg work, like the thing that sucks smoke up, that's happening to you into the divine intelligence. And as it happens, you imagine you're the one doing the stuff to get you closer to it, but really it's just your mind playing tricks on you. You have no choice. You're gonna wake up. You're going to gain realization. And so as that's happening, you kind of, like you can quit something. You can quit drinking. You can quit smoking, but you kind of long for it. But then sometimes you notice you just stop doing shit that was bad for you because you found a better way to live, and it naturally falls away.
Right.
That's convection. You're
Right.
being drawn into the divine mind. As that happens, the shit that looks like austerity when you're like further away begins to actually just be a natural way that you act. You just become naturally more graceful, naturally less inclined to do shitty things, naturally more tuned in with like the 150-year-old version of you. That you sort of naturally, and that just happens on its own because you're being convected into the Christ, sucked into the omega
the holy,
point.
The divine.
Yeah.
We should probably leave on that. Should we end on that?
Yeah.
That's the perfect way to end, right?
Thanks, man.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
letting
Dude,
me come on your
it's
show.
already almost 4 o'clock.
What?
How the
Four?
fuck did that happen?
What the fuck?
Time warp, right? This was a total time warp episode. You and I always have the strangest episodes, man. We really do. They're
I
the
don't believe it's
coolest.
4.
It's almost 4. It's 3:46.
Normally, I would have had to piss like 3 times.
You're evolving. Duncan Trussell, tell everybody when your show is out.
Thank you, Joe. April 20th on Netflix, The Midnight Gospel. You can follow The Midnight Gospel on Twitter and Instagram. And thanks, Pendleton, for making the show with me. And thanks, y'all, for watching it. Thanks for letting me
Dude,
plug it on
my
your
pleasure.
show, man.
It looks awesome. I can't wait to watch it. It looks so Duncan Trussell.
Thank you, Joe.
It's very you. All right. We're going to keep on keeping on, folks. Stay healthy out there. Much love. Bye.
Hare Krishna. Ooh, damn.